Hey friends, welcome to the first episode of Card Speak, the show where we interview notable poker players and talk about all the things other poker shows don't. I'm your host, Captain Nath Bizzolatto, Captain Jackpot. You may know me as one of 100 names. My first guest, one of the better known regulars on the high roller scene. Um, Also, the founder and writer of the blog that just finished its first year publication, Putt of the Day. Also, the best copy edited poker blog on the internet. Just give him a big hand for my friend and yours, Sam Greenwood. I'm the only one in here. I
No,
don't know why I'm talking like there's
yeah,
an audience.
there's no studio audience.
Yeah.
There's no
What am I gonna?
applause.
Yeah, I guess I've just it's where my head's always at. Man, you know what's wild? I don't know if we've had a face-to-face conversation in all these years.
No, I don't think we
Yeah, it's
have.
crazy, right? It's just
Yeah, because I guess like when you first were like heading down to Vegas and playing the series and stuff, I was probably not 21,
yeah. I was gonna say yeah.
and
Uh,
then just you didn't never really played EPTs or like traveled around and like I don't know
yeah.
what I just practically haven't spent all that much time in the States.
Sure. Yeah, and like
Um,
I think you're right because like because I went to the World Series like every year till like 2010, which if I'm right was probably your first year. So
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have even have been. I would have been. I was born in '88, so
okay,
yeah, so I would have been, but in October, so yeah, that would have been my first
21.
year. Yeah,
Yeah. So I guess it just never
yeah.
happened. Yeah, and I wish I had traveled more. I would have loved to play more EPT stuff. I just never won a seat in any of those.
Well, especially back in the day, EPTs really weren't like or like the PCA or any of the thing. They had like 10 tournaments.
Yeah,
It was like an 8-day festival with 10 tournaments.
yeah,
So if you not every tournament was re-entry. If you busted a tournament, you had time to do things.
yeah.
Now if you
Nothing's
bust a
re-entry.
tournament, everything's re-entry, and there's always, if it's not, there's just like another tournament starting in, a couple hours.
Right. Oh my god, I forgot to put my phone on vibrate. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think there were like any re-entries other than like specifically rebuy tournaments. I mean,
Yeah,
shit, there wasn't even late registration at all when I started. It's like you show up at 12:01. Too bad.
and like I remember, like you for the World Series, like for like 1Ks or whatever, there'd just be
Mhm.
these massive lines out the door
Mhm.
because your chips needed to be in play from the
Right.
start. And like you like just the idea that like to play like a 1K, you needed to show up the night before when the line was small so you could register,
Right.
and then you needed to show up on time. Like it's just a there's been a lot of like just subtle improvements in the how like poker tournaments are run
Mhm.
that seem so obvious now, but clearly at the time, like tournament directors, staff, whatever, would just kind of make it up as they went, as were people playing poker. Everyone
Sure.
was learning these things kind of together.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I was like, remembering my early success just being like, oh, yeah, being aggressive works. Uh, that's all you have to really do to win a tournament. I as people overfold or not understand like the
people
IC
used to get
stages.
so mad at you if you would like shove 15 big blinds pre-flop. They would like actively get mad at you at the table for doing such a crazy thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I found this old because I was looking because it was about because it was in the fall. Like was October like 20 years ago was when I had my first big win. I was like, oh, I get $10 an hour at my job. I'm not. I just made like 6 months of income. I'm not working anymore. But that was back in October. It was like I chopped one of the big nightly 11 rebuy on stars. But I found another history where I'm just like aggro shoving reshove stuff that was like it's funny because there's stuff that's like totally standard now that people are like, what are you doing, you maniac, and everyone's calling me a fish and stuff. But there's something where I like opened like sixes on the button. I got three bet by the small blind and just jammed. And he was like, "Oh, I've got jacks. I guess I have to fold." I'm like, "All right."
Yeah.
And now everyone's like, "You'd be out of your mind to do that." Uh,
I remember there was a giant thread in High Stakes No Limit. Where Bobo Fido's
oh,
Robert
yeah,
X Stud,
I still, Rob and I are still buddies. We talk.
but he just talked about it. When you're playing heads up, you should just raise 100% on the button. Most big blinds at the time like defended 40% or
Oh my
something, and he's
God.
just like he's just like it's just a simple math problem. You put in 1.5 big blinds to win to steal the one big blind. You
Yeah.
put 1.5 extra big blinds in the pot to steal the one big blind, and you do it most of the time. And very smart, very good poker players like Phil Galfond and as
Oh.
we were saying, no, no, no. But then your whole range becomes too weak.
Mhm.
Your whole range is too weak. Then the other player like gets all that money back.
I
Um,
mean,
gets all that money back post flop. But to me, that's always been like it was kind of an important lesson for me. Not just about hey, you're gonna play a lot of hands at the button, but like it's always a lot harder to make that money back than you think. Like if one person's making a lot of money at like an early decision in a hand, it's yeah, you might think, oh, I'll get it back later, but it's all often a lot harder than you think.
yeah.
It feel when it happens, it feels natural and easy, but like even for that one, it's like, well, if I min rated the button and just checked it down post flop every single time,
Mhm.
then I would still be winning playing the button, which is like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, there's just a point where like they're folding so much it just doesn't matter if your range is weak because
yeah,
like you're picking up so much. And the corollary is if they are overfolding, then it's like, oh, when they finally get aggressive with something, it's like, okay, well, shut it down.
yeah.
I guess you win this pot, and I'll win 9 more in a row.
And in terms of figuring stuff out, it also wasn't even that crazy. I like if you sort of had a sort of like veil of justice kind of like
Uh huh.
look at like poker
Oh,
strategy,
it's
I
nice.
could say I could say oh, in heads up poker, you're playing your opponent, you should play every hand
Mhm.
because you're 50-50. You're getting pot odds to call,
Mhm.
and you'll always have enough of that. Or you could also say like just like a more like common sense thing, which is like somebody raised pre-flop, I think you should fold Jack 3 off. Like both of those things are sort of like reasonable perspectives, and that's kind of what a lot of poker was back then, which was you take these kind of two polls, but
Mhm.
you can't actually prove it, and you do kind of need to like reason or come to a conclusion or have some sort of philosophical belief about this is how I
Mhm.
believe decisions should be made. This is how I believe the game should be played. And that's what I think we should be doing here. And now it's just there are there's still a lot of wiggle room,
Mhm.
but a lot more of it is this idea of like, okay, well, this is at least these are the bounds.
Mhm.
The bounds of what is too many or too few hands to play heads up is now something that is defined in a way it wasn't necessarily defined before.
Yeah, like now that we have solvers and stuff, we kind of know a
Yeah,
lot better what our actual ranges should be, at least at the baseline. Obviously, no one is 100% GTO perfect. I imagine in the games you play closer than in the ones I play, but there's still like principles and stuff. I always felt, because I see even some high stakes player, talking like, GTO is overrated or whatever. It's like, I think I play this GTO and then says something that's completely not GTO. But it's like, for me, it's always just, you have to have the foundation. If obviously you want to deviate some to exploit what players are doing wrong, but it's like, if you don't have the proper foundation, how do you even know if you're deviating correctly or what the deviation should be?
yeah, exactly.
One of my one of my few well, one of my only like kind of I guess influential things I did was I feel like I was that now is pretty standard. Everybody does is just the smaller opening raises in tournaments. Like it got to the point where I was playing so many hands, that I was just like, well, what if I start going 2.5 instead of 3? Or what if I go even lower? And, it didn't really make a difference, but obviously just putting less at risk. I remember I found this old card player little thing from like 2007 where like I'm going over a hand in their interview series and it's like, I had like 9s under the gun, open like 2.4x, and like, oh, that's an unusually small raise, et cetera, et cetera. You know, it's like now we're
Yeah.
like, that would be completely normal or even a little big.
Yeah, now people would go like 1.8 if you let them, you
Yeah,
know?
right. Yeah. Big blind. It's big blinds 1,000. Can I bet 1,001?
Again, though, I think that is a reflection of the tools that people kind of had at the time, which was
Sure.
people understood ec- equities. They could say, okay, if
Hmm.
you know, whatever this hand with this hand as these equities, and they understood pot odds.
Hmm.
So they understood that calling it all in was not the same as calling like defending the big blind with like a money to play. Will
Hmm.
but I think the idea why people were so scared of min raising when they went, well, if somebody min raises, I'm getting like 6-1 in the big blind. So then even 2-7 off has 26% or whatever, so I should be calling. I think that was kind of like a thought people had.
Hmm.
So they were like, well, I need to make it a large enough size such that they actually need to fold things. And then what people like you ended up finding out was, okay, just because somebody who is kind of like a math player who goes, oh, I know this hand has this much equity, and I know this raise is too small, and I
Yeah.
know whatever. Like most people still out defending 2-7 off. Most
Right.
people have sort of like a framework that's more like, hey, king 6 off is a bad hand, so I'm going to fold it. And again, that was like, you're not wrong. King 6 off is not a good hand.
Yeah.
Like
But
uh,
at the same time, depending on the situation, it might be worth the odds, and it might be something where
yeah,
you hit a pair. You're whereas like 2-7 off, it's just so much harder, even if you're getting immediate odds to even realize anything down
yeah,
the line,
exactly.
down the hand.
Yeah,
Uh, ah, the good old days before anybody knew anything. It's funny. I was talking about this to someone a night or two ago, and like how much things have changed. I was like, man, Super System came out in 1979. And if you just read that like 25 years later, that's enough. That was still enough to make you like a winning player.
yeah,
It's
for sure.
crazy, yeah. And meanwhile, in the last, when did solvers really start coming? At like 2018 or so. Like,
I think a little earlier. I think
okay.
20.
Uh-oh.
I mean, the other thing, the rise of solvers was linked up to sort of a technical thing, which was in order, you know, I'm not sure exactly how much renting space on like an Amazon server to run Sims would have cost in 2015, but substantially more than it would cost now, and the
Makes
servers
sense.
would be less powerful. If you wanted to build like, I mean, the desktop I'm recording this on right now is a custom built desktop I got in 2019. I got it at the time specifically to like run Sims and stuff.
Yeah.
And right now, like it's not that good a computer. Um, it's fine.
Sure.
I could run some things on it. So the one that like technical thing where uh, that solvers could only exist so long as there was kind of like the hardware to run them on.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it would just take forever.
Yeah.
And
Even
yeah,
say even in my own experience, yeah, running a little Sims with like PioSolver or whatever. It's like, yeah, if I have a computer, because my desktop's like, oh, gee, it's coming up on 5 years old. Yeah, I got it in like early summer 21, I think. But you know, has 32 gigs of RAM. It might not be super fast, but it'll run it. Whereas like I tried once on laptop around the same time at 16, and it's just like this is never getting done.
yeah, and I mean also like this is you're pushing up against the limits of my knowledge here, but my understanding is like the current RAM is also like 16 gigs of like 2026 RAM is much better than like 32 gigs or 64 gigs of like 2020 RAM.
Okay, yeah, that makes
It
sense.
is my understanding. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hopefully there's no crisis on that with like there has been with the graphics cards and stuff and the
yes,
impending collapse of the AI bubble.
that it does seem like that's going to happen. That it's going to
Yeah.
become more expensive.
Yeah, it's
So
wild. Anyway, well, this is free ranging. I'm not expert enough to start ranting about what's going to go wrong there,
yes,
but I saw OpenAI is killing Sora and then Disney backed out of the deal this week, and that seems like the first domino.
I
Uh,
mean,
go ahead.
yes, Sora is one of the things that I was never that impressed with
Yeah.
because like the standard if you're watching a movie or a TV show or whatever is not that, oh, occasionally there will be a giant arrow in the frame. Like, like, yeah, for a magic trick it's very cool.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, like I always thought that funny was somebody's like, look at this clip, and then I'm like, why did this happen? Why are there an arrow 6 seconds in?
Why does
Why did the
face melt into another face and back?
or just like why did the lighting not track?
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I think someone put it well, or it's like, it's kind of cool in that this technology didn't exist however many years ago, 5, 10 years ago, but like the idea that it's gonna replace filmmaking or whatever is like flat out absurd. Not,
there's all there's also this idea that you as a consumer can like notice things, and this extends in all arenas. Where like you hear the stories of guys like, um, you know, big movie directors watching like color correcting the movies where they like watch it in like a giant like theater, and they're like, oh, there's just a little too much red here, and
yeah.
then they like go back and color correct it. And for me, I'm like, yeah, I can notice when there are images that I find striking or beautiful or like
Hmm.
consistent or I like them, but I would have no idea how to fix them or what's wrong with them. Or like, when there are movies like, I don't know, like, that are like drenched in like blood red. And I'm like, oh wow, there's so much red here. It's like
Yeah.
so haunting. It's so like so whatever. But it's like, okay, but I don't realize when I'm watching, you know, some like I don't know, like what the last movie I saw. Like, one of the last movies I saw was is this thing on the Will Arnett Bradley Cooper like
Oh,
stand up.
is this thing on? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't
And
seen
I'm
it yet.
saying like throughout, it was shot by Matthew Libatique, and he's a note. So I'm sure there were scenes of that where he's like, "Oh, I put a little like blue filter on this," and
Yeah.
like a comedy club or whatever. And to me, no idea. It just
Hmm.
looked like a comedy club to me. So then when somebody shows you like an AI clip, I'm like, yeah, it looks impressive to me, somebody who doesn't know anything.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that going on right now where it's like, yeah, if you don't know anything and you don't know the craft or the technique or
Hmm.
anything, then it looks cool and it looks like a great trick.
Yeah, and I'm sort of the same way. I've done a little writing. I'm a big believer. Storytelling's one of my favorite art forms. Well, that's not because it comes in many art forms. I don't know. I think it's one of those things that's sort of fundamental to human society, and but like like you were saying, it's like my visual sense for those things. Like I don't know if I could be a director. If I'd be a director, it'd probably be the most straightforward shit ever because I'm like I don't know. I know the rhythms of the story, the dialogue, and what I want the characters to do. Well, how it would look the coolest. Uh, you got me there,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, and like yeah, it's like you said, it's a cool trick, but it is not, especially because even with the storytelling, there's like no, what's the human element behind this? What is the art trying to communicate to the audience? And
Yeah.
there's just no way for that to even be possible. Yeah, some of this stuff I described it once as they're like some of the people who want to use this, I don't know, it's like they just want to see pleasing familiar images, but it's like they just play, they're like a kid playing with dolls who's like, what if Barbie and Batman kissed? But they're not even
Yeah,
playing with the
exactly.
dolls, they're like typing in the computer, make Barbie and Batman kiss for me. And it's like, come on, man, use your imagine, at least use your imagination.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. um oh, that reminds me, the last movie I saw was The Luckiest Man in America. um the Michael Larson Press Your Luck story with Paul Walter Hauser and
Ah,
Walton
yes.
Goggins. Yeah, it was pretty good. Wasn't great. Performances are good. It's definitely really dramatized compared to what actually happened. But
I mean,
uh,
it's a great story.
yeah, yeah, it's
And like it's like I love these like like kind of like low rent kind of scam things,
yes,
and it's really one of the like anyone kind I mean, I guess for the people who don't know, the game Press Your Luck, there was like an element of the game where they would have like a screen that goes, like beep boop 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 boop
Yeah.
up, and then you press stop to and then when it stops, it like lands on whatever your prize would be.
Yeah.
But the guy found out that they just used stock footage for the thing with the
Yeah, there's
crazy
only
thing we're going.
a handful of like repeating patterns, like 5 or something. So he just
Yeah. So he just knew which one it was,
yeah,
and then he managed to hit the jackpot like every time.
yeah.
And yeah, like it'd be like it's just like I, I think the nature of those stories is there are a bunch of stories like that going on right now, but you only tend to hear about those stories when people get caught
Hmm.
or like years later when people are like, I gotta tell somebody.
Yeah.
I can't die without I remember there was a story in Canada where somebody would find bank branches that were like under construction or like buildings that a bank like had a new lease on, and they would when it was like when they would do renovation, they would just kind of break in at night, figure out what they thought was the manager's office, and just install like a hidden camera or two, and then at some point when they install the hidden camera, like they would, I don't know, leave like a document with safe codes on
Oh
them, or the
yeah.
manager would say something or whatever. They just kind of like when the guy got caught, the thing that struck me about it was they said, oh, he had like robbed like 30 banks or something, and in my mind, I was like, that means there were 29 other times where a bank got robbed that nobody said anything, right?
Yeah.
Which means banks have to be getting robbed. Like they don't want to publicize it.
Right.
Like so, what I'm saying is, if you're listening to this podcast, robbing a bank is easier than you think it is. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm like taking notes, like,
Yeah.
29 out of 30. I like those odds.
Well,
Uh,
they Scott Seaver was playing Lawden. Lawden
buddy.
thinks with Antonio. He was the brain, and he was playing Lawden thinks with Antonio. And Antonio had these questions that he just repeats over and over again.
Uh-huh.
And one of them is, if you were given a year, and like whatever, you'd get like $10 million if you succeeded. What are the odds on a scale, so 0 to 100? What are the odds that you would be able to steal something from the vault of a bank, any bank in the U.S.? And Scott said, said 99%.
That feels a little high.
He said he didn't want to say 100% because then it would break the game of Lawden, because you can't pick the end point of it.
Yeah.
But I thought that was
That's great. That seems. I mean, that seems optimistic to me. I
without
know
getting caught. Too.
Yeah, it's like I know Scott's a smart guy, but I mean, he's a buddy, really too. But that still seems optimistic. I mean, I guess in the sense that like, if you're getting 10 million for him, like, well, how about if I just set aside half to hire like a team of the world's best bank thieves? Yeah, then probably, but.
I think in the U.S. you would have a pretty good shot,
Yeah.
because there's so many small regional banks.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you don't want to try stealing from like a city bank in like Manhattan or something.
Yeah.
You want to try to pick like some.
There's this. Oh man, this is gonna get real silly, but because there's an American Dad episode in the last season or two where like like one of the local banks opens a branch in the grocery store, and like Stan, Francine, and Roger are like, oh, this is the perfect heist because they don't have the regular level of bank security. The grocery store access means you can. So they plan this whole thing out like the perfect bank robbery, and I haven't followed up to see how legit their scheme is, but I always like the idea. It's like, yeah, this is where the security is going to be laxest, so let's. And I think, there's also an element of scams and robberies. Like you said, nobody was reporting these. Maybe, not just that the banks don't want them to know, but like, yeah, people get embarrassed. They got, people don't want to let people know they got taken, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's a human nature kind of thing. Okay, let me, to segue for a bit, part of the reason I brought up The Luckiest Man in America, Pressure Luck was my favorite game show as a kid, and I feel like, for me, I feel like I didn't get into poker for this the same or with the same background other people did. I got into it in part because I like games, and I liked that I was making a lot more money playing a game than I was at a job. Whereas, there are a lot of people with backgrounds like I think more in finance or in investment or what have you, more money making. And I'm sure some of our audience, I say that I don't know how much of our audience is actual like knowledgeable about the poker world or just people who are doing me a favor to give this a shot because they know me personally but don't know anything about poker. But I want to talk because you're like kind of unique in that you just have the two brothers, right?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, and all three of you play and have had very
yeah,
good results. Max is older than you and Luke. Is that right?
that's
Yeah.
correct.
So
Yeah.
I guess how did y'all get started? Like, were you like seeing him do it? Was it something y'all did at home growing up a lot, or?
No, we had like a household that I would say was kind of like it was like gambling like friendly
Uh huh.
in the sense that like like my dad had his friends from growing up would go to Vegas every year and he never went.
Okay.
But then like he'd show us like I remember him showing me the newspaper and being like, "Oh, here are like the point spreads for the football games," And
Yeah.
he didn't gamble on sports. He just kind of like conceptually kind of like the world of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that's fun.
and then Max was of the age where like the he was born in 1985 and I believe his like literally his first year in university was basically when the Moneymaker episode started
Yeah,
airing.
Moneymaker was '03.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so that's right.
the idea of like being 18 uh or 19 I guess in this case, living by yourself, I know he'd have been 8, whatever, doesn't matter.
Whatever. Yeah.
Living access to online poker,
Yeah.
you're watching these people who you've like, so many of those guys like Moneymaker obviously, but like Ivy and like just Helmuth and like whatever, just
Mhm.
immediately became these like giant stars.
Sure. Yeah.
Like there is not that like glow like people do not become like the most famous poker players in the world right now are the most famous poker players from 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
there's been no
Ivy, Helmy,
um
Nagano, maybe.
yeah. And yeah, so he started playing. Peter Jedden
Oh, I
started
was like, well,
playing.
that's one thing we're gonna fix with this show. We're gonna show
Yeah.
everyone that you guys have as much personality and verve as
Yes.
those guys. You just, when you're at the table, you focus on the poker, not playing to the cameras. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, just wanted to get that out. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, yeah, so
Peter
he
Jedden.
started playing. Peter Jedden started
Yeah, I know him.
playing. And then for me, it was just like again this kind of like family culture of like
Hmm.
it was kind of like looking at like the point spreads again, where it's just like I think I would be a good poker player. Why? Like I don't know. Like I was mathematically inclined. I
Hmm.
liked, there this idea that still exists culturally of like gamblers being people who can like kind of like outwit and outsmart people. And I always thought I was somebody who was like clever and could outwit and outsmart people. So the combination of like, hey, here's a roadmap to do well. Here's something that naturally would appeal to you. Like, hey, one day you might even get to go on ESPN. Um, all
Yeah.
that appealed to me, and then I just started playing, found 2 plus 2. It just kind of became like the video game I played in my last couple of years of high school. Um, and yeah, then like it was, nice because Matt, I was lucky to get introduced to people who kind of consistently pointed me in the right direction.
Hmm.
Like even with like 2 plus 2, like I don't mean this in like a whatever, but like there were a million internet forums talking about poker. 2 plus 2 was the biggest,
Yeah.
but like there's no reason why I couldn't have started off on like full contact poker, pocket
Five
fives, or
fives. Yeah.
whatever. Where like there was still pretty good strategy content and stuff, but it was not nearly as good as 2 plus 2.
Yeah.
Um,
That's.
and yeah, that like you start playing, you start winning, you get confidence, you move up
Hmm.
stakes. It's all, and then it all just kind of like flows naturally.
Hmm.
Especially at that point in time where it was just easy to make like a little bit like it was easy to make like $50,000, $100,000 a year. You
Yeah,
know,
like it was. Yeah, like, geez, yeah, and like when I
just
really got serious in like 2005. Yeah, it was just.
just the volume of like $11 tournaments or $22
Hmm.
tournaments was crazy.
Yeah,
You could just play 16 tables of 2-4 no limit all day every day if you wanted to.
yeah.
Like that's impossible now. So yeah, it was just a much there was just so much more volume at like whatever stakes you wanted it to be, basically. It
Hmm.
wasn't really until you got to high stakes that the idea of like there might not be games running started even existing.
Right. Yeah, and especially, in America, I'm in America, which I think most of our audience knows. Pre UIGEA, it's just like people, there's so many sites operating, there's probably 6 or 7 stars, Party, Ultimate Bet, Poker Room, Full Tilt, and they're all around
Yeah.
games, and people are just handing money, and it was easy to make money like by accident, practically. Like I remember one night, 2006, I don't even play that much cash, right, compared to tournaments, and I was never that good, but baseline good enough to win it though. But like I went out drinking with some of my friends, came home, felt like firing up some poker because I was drunk, so why not? And I just sat in like a 3-6 game, and there was one guy tilting, raising to like $88 every hand pre-flop at 3-6. Yeah, I won like 9 buy-ins before I quit. I was like, oh, all right. So I went out, got drunk, came home, made 5 grand. This is a good life, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I don't think that can happen anymore. I'm definitely feeling trying to get the volume in, right? Because there's, not that many sites that service the U.S. or legitimately. I mean, you can get on the gray market ones, but I have my suspicions, not just about them, but some of them with the like a couple of them, they don't have like the bot problems they've talked about, with.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's kind of a story of like the internet and culture and society right now, where
Hmm.
it used to be this kind of like way where like an individual could find like their own little thing on the internet and make money on it.
Hmm.
And then as soon as you found out about it, then thousands of people have found out about it. And then it becomes systematized. And then
Hmm.
it becomes like whatever. And then you're at a point where there are like, you know, stables and like
Yeah.
I hate like painting this picture, but like they were just stables of like, like 21-year-old like Belarusian kids
Hmm.
who are just like playing like, like whatever, like 4,000 hours of that math book. Yeah, like
A
four
year.
thousand hours of poker a year or
It's
something.
like
I
80
mean,
hours a week, shit, but it's not
yeah,
impossible. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And um, yeah, what like started off, is sort of like, hey, like I found this thing, I can outsmart these people, I can make a little money, has turned into like, no, 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 we have found a way to extract as much money out of this as possible in an organized, efficient, systematic way.
Hmm.
And like that's life and that's competition and that's capitalism. But it did used to be like if you had your little angle,
Yeah.
even like the like I'm curious now if like if press your luck if the thing never if he never did it, going back to that, and like if Press Your Luck was a brand new show that aired in like 2025,
Hmm.
people would have found out about this in like after like 3 episodes.
Oh yeah, people
You
would be
know?
like recording every episode. The guy had to like get his, even just technologically speaking, he had to like get his VHS out and tape all the episodes in the mid '80s, and
Yeah.
then memorize the patterns from watching that. Whereas like, oh yeah, I got my, I almost said TiVo, but even that's fucking out of date by now. It's like, oh yeah, my on-demand service and
Or
street
like I'm
watching.
sure you could though I'm sure like now if you just take any random game show, you can torrent all the episodes or they're
Hmm.
on YouTube or the whatever. Like you
Yeah,
can find them. You know?
yeah.
Even just for like narrative TV, the idea of like you missed an episode and so now you just don't know what happened in
Right.
this show.
Is
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like not even feasible. Yeah, between streaming or torrents or whatever, or
Yeah.
on the minute, like you can catch everything. Which is, of course, I think a lot of the reasons why so many network shows were not nearly as serialized. Because it's like, well, if you had to miss a week or whatever, we don't want you to not understand what's going on. We want you to stay with the show. You can catch that episode in summer repeats or whatever.
Yeah. And
Man,
even
it's
just like if you're 5 minutes late, if you're
uh
stuck in traffic, it's like, oh, I missed the first, like the cold open of this Cheers episode. I hope I didn't miss any funny jokes.
yeah, right. You probably did, but
Yeah.
that's okay. Just a joke. And usually the cold opens weren't too plot relevant. But yeah, like God, it's just one of those things where like technology in some ways progressed so much just in our lifetimes. I'm older than you, but like still like there's enough analog like life. I guess I grew up with, especially with older siblings, who were born in the '70s and Gen Xers and their culture. Personal computers just like started being a thing when I was a little kid. You know, like we got our first in like '85 or '86. I think I was
Yeah.
immediately a big computer nerd.
And that makes you like an early adopter too.
Right.
Like there are people who the concept of a first computer does not like click to
Yeah.
them. It's like saying you first like the door on your first home or something.
Yeah.
It's like,
Like, what do you mean
yeah,
first? Like, didn't they all come with that? Now,
yeah,
there was a
exactly.
time in your life without one. Uh, yeah, my first computer had 256K of RAM. Not meg, not gigs, kilobytes. It's wild. We upgraded to 640 at one point. We had to buy an external 3.5-inch floppy drive because it didn't come with one. It's man. All right, that's enough old man stories. Because my own story, like, and one of the reasons I bought, like I said, I liked game shows, winning, and I feel like with my family, we played a lot of cards, especially like we lived near my mom's side of the family. They played a lot of cards. I play bridge every week with my mom and my grandparents till my grandpa passed. And then my dad, I feel like, was a little more the gambler type. We didn't see him do it much, but he had sort of that mentality. I did once see him watch him play video poker, and actually run up a pretty good win and start losing a little, and then instead of being like, all right, let's quit while we're ahead, trying to get back to his peak, and then eventually losing out because it's video poker and you don't have an edge. Uh, I felt like that was
Unless,
a
unless there's a royal flush jackpot, and
yeah,
then you got the chainsaws of the world.
yeah, just grinding at the
Yeah.
trying to spike that. Oh man, I don't know enough about this, although I never get tired
I
of saying
mean,
the chainsaw as a nickname.
slots and any of those things that have some sort of progressive lotteries, anything that have a progressive jackpot like that, do hit some sort of point where they become plus EV.
Right,
And I think
that makes sense.
specifically with video poker, what happens is if the jackpot becomes large enough that then the optimal strategy just becomes we're going for a royal flush no matter what. Like we're
Hmm.
breaking up a pair of aces if
Yeah,
we have ace king of spades
yeah,
type thing. Then it becomes plus EV. But
yeah,
like again, it also like the stories of people buying up all the like plus EV Powerball tickets with like, okay,
yeah,
cool, like you're going to lose money, like still lose money 99% of the time.
yeah.
Like
Way more. Yeah.
you need a giant bankroll, even if you're buying up like tens of thousands of tickets
Yeah,
to.
like even I don't even know. I'm sure I looked this up at one point many years ago, like how much it would cost to like buy every single combination. But it is like, I think I remember like it's to the point where it's like most of the time, like even if it's plus EV, like the chances of someone else hitting you, splitting with them, just such a
Yeah,
disaster. Like yeah, like you said, like it's like the video poker world, it's plus EV in the same way that like if I enter a $20 tournament with 20,000 runners, that's going to be plus EV because none of those guys are any
yeah,
good. But how often am I going to win it? Probably
yeah.
not even one in
Except,
10,000 times.
and this would be like if it was like a winner take all tournament,
Mm. Yeah, it's like okay, well let's. Do I have? Yeah, do you need like like $2 million bankroll or something probably just for that? Hundreds of thousands
Yeah,
of buy-ins. Um, but yeah, and so then I guess I started playing poker in college, and my I had a couple friends there, and with Moneymaker, it really picked up. Started having this regular game, and then fall of 2004, one of my buddies, he was like, "Yeah, let's put a little money online and see if we can win something." I remember this, and it's fun to tell because it's like, all right, we put 25 bucks in poker room and immediately lost it. Then we did it again and immediately lost it. And then the third time immediately lost it. And so he was finally like, this is the last time. And at that time we won. We were just playing cash. And not only did we win, we got on a huge heater. We're like over over about 2 weeks, we turned the 25 into like 8 grand. Uh, weren't very good, kind of petered off after that. But, that was what gave me the like, I think I can win at this if I just learn how. So that's when I started buying the books and then got on 2+2. And then
Did did any of your like friends make it or like do anything with poker, or is it just something where they like played for a couple of like 6 months or a year and then just kind of petered out?
yeah, no, nothing significant. Like none of the people because this is when I was in college and right after
Yeah,
like my friends from there. I had a friend, play with a bid, and he'd come. We'd go to casinos sometimes, and yeah, we went to a few times drove back over from Houston to my hometown of Lake Charles to play the casinos there. But we never really played big. Probably never more than like
yeah,
2-5 or something. But yeah, so then I started. The next year got back into tournaments, and then after a lot of actually, I ran my bankroll down to almost nothing. I think I was down to like a five. I mean, I started with like 300 bucks, had some early decent wins, went down. I was down to like a $5 tournament ticket that I ran into that I cashed for like 25 bucks, ran up and sit and goes to like 100, then won a $10 tournament for like 800 bucks, and then another for about the same the next week. So I was like, okay, I have a bankroll all of a sudden. And then a couple months later, I hit that stars rebuy, and I was like, all right, I'm quitting my job. I have
yeah.
10 grand. I maybe need 1,000 a month to live on. That was the other nice thing. How cheap everything was. Fucking 300 bucks a month in rent was nice. That's
Yeah,
that was
even
kind
for
of
me,
yeah.
like I don't know where were you living with $300 a month in rent?
Oh, Houston, with like
Okay.
3 other people, but still 2 or 3 other people. Yeah,
Yeah, because I was going to say like I lived in Toronto and I lived in Montreal, and like
yeah,
rent never has never been like cheap in those
yeah.
cities. Yeah, I mean Montreal's reasonable, but
Houston,
never like cheap cheap.
yeah, Houston's cheap in part because like during the '80s, they built a ton of like new apartments during the oil boom, and then the oil crashed, so there was just nobody to live in them. So like yeah,
Yeah,
rent was really cheap for a while, and I'm sure it's stabilized and gone, and it's definitely gone up some since then. But it was still so much cheaper. Yeah, I don't mean I was getting a $300 apartment by myself. It'd be like, oh yeah, 1,200 for like a 4 bedroom place or something, three
yeah.
four bedroom, and then share it with 3 people. Yeah, the good old days. So we something else that's I guess a couple things in your situation you haven't been traveling as much this last year it looks like or from what I can tell you
No.
told me just focus on pun of the day you started a family
Yeah.
congratulations and mazel tov to
Thank
your
you.
upcoming second
Thank you.
child. I would say we're breaking the news here but absolutely not you already told people on the blog so
Yeah. Yes.
is that just stop playing is it just you're gonna get back is it something you just refocused on what your priorities are and how this all fits together.
Yeah, I'm gonna get back to it. I think some of it is like the ignorance of not knowing the different um like stages of like early childhood stuff
Uh-huh.
where like if you told me before I had a kid, like just showed me a picture of like different kids and we're like, how old is this kid? Can they walk? Can
Yeah.
they do this? I would be like, I have no idea.
Sure.
Um and basically what happened was, for when he was like newborn, I did a couple of trips. I went to
Hmm.
Barcelona, I went to Cyprus, I went to Jeju. Um and then there were just like things that kept like just scheduling wise timing out pretty badly. Like he had kept having ear infections and
Hmm.
needed to put tubes in his ears, which is a very normal thing that happens to a lot of kids.
Yeah.
But the idea of me being like, hey, sorry, I'm not going to be there the day he has surgery, like I did, it was a
Yeah.
I think about that a lot when you're dealing with sort of like whatever it is, like doctors, lawyers, some sort of like professionals. Well, it is always one of the most important things to you,
Hmm.
and to them, it's just another person they're seeing that day.
Right.
No matter how big a heart and kind and compassionate they are.
Yeah.
And like I thought about that for like the surgery, where I'm like, look, I know it's my new surgery. I know everything will work out okay. But like the thought of like it's my son is getting surgery for the first time and hopefully last time ever,
Yeah.
and like how would I feel that sends a message about me and my priorities and fatherhood if I were not there for that, if I
Hmm.
were like away in a work trip.
And how
My wife,
cats in the cradle. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean my wife, like my wife could have handled it and dealt with
Sure.
it. She could have taken him to the surgery, but like it is, it's made every decision now about like I'm not gonna go to like Trident for like 4 days.
Right. Yeah, that would be absurd because it's like halfway
So
across the globe.
yeah, so the idea is I go, okay, well, like now the calculus is okay, you need to be gone for 2, 3 weeks.
Hmm.
Are you willing to do that? And that changes things quite a bit. And like it turns out I get the BOA was much higher than I anticipated. And like even for this, there were like Bahamas I was planning on going to, and then something very last minute happened, which was like right in the middle of the. I think it was on like day 2 of the 250K Invitational.
Mm.
So then I couldn't play the Invitational. I couldn't really play any of the tournaments before or after, because day 2 of the Invitational was also day 1 of the main event, the no
Oh.
limit main event, because the
Hmm.
invitation, because they wanted to have a tournament for people who didn't get an invite.
Sure.
So it was like the worst possible day, and I couldn't go. Um, Jeju, I remember like there was a period where I kept looking at like flights.
Hmm.
Like every day, I would like wake up and like look at flights, and then like it's just been a timing wise not great, but like yeah, I think there was an element also of let's spend a year really doing the content thing, doing the writing, doing this, um, and see how I feel about
Hmm.
I've been playing poker for so long that there was an element of going, okay, how do you feel? Let's stop playing for a bit. Also, just like psychologically with a child, like let's just stop dealing with the like sort of like stress and
Hmm.
ups and downs of gambling,
Yeah.
and let's go and we'll see if after X amount of time how you feel about it. Like were you just
Yeah.
playing poker out of kind of like inertia?
Yeah. This is
And
what I
then
do.
I found I'm like, no, I miss it a lot.
Hmm.
I really like it. Even now, like I wish I were in Korea right now playing the Tridents. It just
Hmm.
again there was some logistical thing that just didn't sync up with it. Um, so like it's gone like the other way for me, where I think I've talked to people who um stopped playing poker and took some sort of real job or something, and
Yeah.
they said like, oh, like the moment, like I just don't care about poker anymore.
Hmm.
Like now I'm sure that's true to some degree, which is if I were to do something else, I would get new hobbies and habits and
Yeah.
new passions or whatever. But they were just basically like, yeah, as soon as I started doing the other thing, I felt like I didn't miss poker anymore and I made the right decision. Well, for me, it does feel like the other way, where like
Yeah.
I sort of like took it out of my life and I was like, no, I very much miss it.
Hmm.
I still believe I'm like as good, like as good as I've ever been.
Yeah.
I still believe I could compete with the best, and that's always been the thing for me. Which, if it got to a point where I could no longer consider myself one of the best, then I would be happy to kind of like hang him up.
Hmm.
Um, not, I don't mean this in like a like elitist way either. Like if you're playing mid stakes and you like it and you're having fun and you think it's the best thing to do for you, go nuts. I'm just saying I've done a lot in poker. I've accomplished a lot in poker, and for me that would be kind of like the sign of like I don't need to be, like I've played in. I don't need to. Um, if I feel I'm not like one of the best in the world, then I think it's time for me to move on to something else. But
Yeah.
so long as I still feel that way, I want to keep playing for
Yeah.
now.
Well, shit. I think you even got to my follow up questions because I was like, you've made it to big levels, so what motivates you to keep going and stuff, and yeah, and I guess I was gonna ask, besides money, obviously, what poker brings to you, and but it sounds like
It's like
it's
I've said this. I but like usually most people by the time they like sort of like graduate high school will basically stop competing in things.
hmm
Of course, there's like the sort of like macro idea of like, oh, I'm competing to get a promotion at work, or like,
yeah,
what
but
I would like the social competition of like, oh, I'm competing to like have like a bigger house, or like, whatever the thing is.
yeah,
But in terms of like structured competition where there was a winner and a loser, uh, most people don't have that, and it is like a really fun like thing to have in your life. It's
yeah,
stressful and difficult and challenging.
yeah. I feel that because I'm like, because my own relationship has been up and down with it. I had my big win in 2006, which was one because it was one of the smarter decisions I made. I won, like you said, I for those who don't know, I first World Series event I ever played was the 2500 six max in 2006, and I finished in second place. And I probably could have won, but I misread the board on my bust out hand. I don't think I've ever admitted that in public before. Just the biggest, $200,000 difference between second and first. I misread the fucking board. Anyway, but so I won like full tilt was running those like bracelet satellites or whatever. You get $1,500 of WSOP chips. So I won two of those, and it was a six max where I wanted to play because back then I was still more aggressive, and that's so much more naturally suited to six max than full ring anyway, and closer to correct. But the other reason is that it started the same day as the first ever 50K horse event. So I was like, oh, all the best players in the world are going to play that tournament. I'm going to go play this tournament.
Yeah.
And then I guess when I did well enough in it, I kind of did it. To be honest, I kind of just stopped working on my game and improving. And I'm like, I wish there are a couple things where it was like, how would I put it? Or I started playing ways I was supposed to, or like live up to being like a high stakes gambler or whatever, instead of like trying to play well. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And not being careful enough about that, and maybe overestimating my abilities given the circumstances. I won that turn, or won all that under, where it's like yeah, I can beat a bunch of like circuit regulars or whatever, but it doesn't mean I can beat the best in the world. Um,
I'm looking at the Hendon mob of your second place,
yeah, it's
and
like
we got a Bill Chen won,
yeah, that was the second
obviously.
one that was the second one that summer. I think it was
Yeah,
right
and
when.
then you have Alex Bulletin, who's a name I remember.
Yeah, he was the only
Uh,
person I busted.
you have cashing the tournament. You have Peter Jedden, who
hmm
previously mentioned. You have Jordan Morgan. You have Phil Gordon.
Oh yeah, I know
Phil
Peter Jordan.
Galfond. So
I do
a
not.
lot. Galfond came like 18th, so it is
Oh
possible you
wow, yeah, I might.
never played with him.
Or yeah, there was some wild. Yeah, there was some a few of the players I guess that thing. Now you got me curious, and I'm like, but yeah, that is also like 60% of my hand in
I
mob. So
believe Russ Fox, who I believe
oh
is like
wow,
the
Jet played me. I must remember him from that. Who's that? You said Russ Fox?
well,
Or
there was a Russell Fox, and I wonder if it is the like the guy, the tax guy,
Huh?
or if it's another Russell Fox.
I
There's Tony G cashed.
wow.
A lot of
This is
lot of
wild.
name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember Harry Demetriou finished sixth. that was a wild hand. Or his bust out. Like I said, I busted Alex, but that was pretty standard. He opened ace queen on the button. I shoved eights from the big. He called. I won the flip. Uh, but Dimitri, there was like an open because he busted, but he was like second in chips. I think to Mike Gutman who busted him. And I mean, I could. I don't want to waste a bunch of time looking up like the card player reporting or whatever to
I
find
will
out.
say it is, there is, it's all that stuff's also a little harder to find now. That's another
Yeah,
kind of thing about like the internet, which is everyone kind of thought anything that was on the internet would last forever,
yeah.
and
There's a
now
lot
you're
of
finding a lot of dead links, a lot of things that don't exist. Yeah,
yeah. But so I remember there was an open Demetrio three bets, and then Mike Gutman, who I don't think is a pro at all. Okay, he plays enough regularly that he's, but not like a big, pro like cold four bets him in
Mhm.
2006. So
Yeah,
very, very, very narrow range. Demetrio tanks forever calls. Flop is low all hearts. Demetrio jams. Gutman snap calls, of course. Of course, Gutman has the aces. Demetrio has jacks with a heart, and the aces holding. That's it. I'm like, that's the other thing that was crazy about back then. Is not only like how people didn't, people. ICM was a concept, but people I don't think really understood it, or like. You see a lot of people who play like the exact opposite of how they should, where they're like early on, they're like, play tight to survive to the middle stages, and then you know.
yeah,
But it's like, well, okay, but if you bust, like, if it's 500 people or whatever, and you bust, really no difference between busting 499th or 200th.
yeah. That is something though that like again, there are a lot of like kind of like the fish
Mm-hmm.
logic things about poker come from like a real psychological
Yeah.
thing, which is like you don't want to come in last place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in a poker tournament, the specific type of competition, we're coming in a 1,000-person field,
Mm-hmm.
coming in like 200th place and coming in 1,000th place are basically the same thing.
Right.
Um, and the 1,000th place, you probably just save a little time and have like a better story
Yeah.
probably, you know. Um, but that like a lot of that stuff, that's what I think kind of makes poker interesting, which is how a lot of these very real psychological concepts
Mm-hmm.
that exist that you just need to train yourself to go. This doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, coming in last place, you are correct. Biologically and psychologically, and in your body to go coming in last place is the worst outcome.
Yeah.
But it is, but it isn't. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, you got to give yourself a chance, to have enough to win when it counts. Or it's funny. I see it still some because I play some of the low stakes live up here, and I made a couple final table. Actually, no, I have a couple wins, but like I see people just do stuff where it's like they'll play tighter early on, and then you get to the final table, and all of a sudden they're like sticking it in way too wide. Like just remembering, I busted a guy. Oh, I mean, I was a massive chip leader in this one. There are like seven left. I open under the gun. I have nines. Small blind just like decides to jam like ace seven, and it's like, oh, okay. I mean, like,
yeah,
actually, my favorite story was there was one different tournament where like two people were all in and they exposed their cards early by accident. So they got a 1 round penalty, and the loser was really short after that, like three big blinds or three or four big blinds plus a 1 round penalty, which is like two and a half of those going through the blinds in the big blind ante. So it's like, yeah, you just have to wait this out, and you're gonna get some pay jumps. And while they were sitting out their order, like two other people busted. It's like just like no patience, no con. It's like, man, I just kind of sat back till we got three handed, and then the deck ran me over.
yeah. I think another thing that's another kind of psychological thing where
Mm-hmm.
people like anchoring the strategy around if they're up or down, which is obviously a big thing in cash games. Where like if
Right.
you go, hey, this people, I remember like the Mike Kiro tells video. He talked about people who would keep those stacks in two
Yeah.
piles, profit what they bought in with and what their profit was.
Yeah.
So they knew how much they were up.
That tracks.
And in tournament, there are people who basically they go, "Hey, I bought in for $100.
Mm-hmm.
I've now locked up 500. I'm happy, right? Like, and that's a normal attitude to have. But like, obviously, I want to be, you know, screaming at them, or like the way I'm thinking, like, no, you want to make 5,000.
Yeah.
That's what the goal here is, and that's when you can see pretty easily in like body language and whatever, where people are just happy that they've cashed, happy that they've gone,
Hmm.
past a certain point, and it's something everyone has felt at some point in like their poker life.
Hmm.
It's all these feelings, all these whatever, which I think they need to get trained out of you, and like, yeah, like the idea of like, if we go back to when like I was watching the Moneymaker episodes, if somebody would tell me, um, one day you're not only going to like play the World Series poker main event, you're going to be so like nonplussed or indifferent about the whole thing that you will have the opportunity to play it
Uh-huh.
and choose not to.
And be playing stuff with like 10 times or 25 times the buy-in even, you know?
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
wild. Yeah, that's right. Like to make it to those heights. I guess, that's one other thing I've always been curious about because like one reason I got back into poker these last like 5 years or so is, I mean, to be honest, I missed being good at something. I mean, I was pretty good at my
Yeah.
jobs, but that didn't do me very. That hasn't done very well for me, like in terms of keeping them or having a career. Uh, but yeah, and then it just like I don't know, because like what happened to me, I kind of stopped after Black Friday, Monday, Tuesday. I forget. I want to say Monday. When the FBI shut
Friday.
everything down. Okay, yeah. Um, and then 2016, I decided I'd save some money. I was going to move to Mexico and give it a shot. And like 2 weeks in, I was playing basketball with some other players and completely blew out my ankle, like complete like tendon tear. So I've just laid up in an apartment in a foreign country for months. I can't move around or do anything. It was like fucking it was like Bar to Darkness. You remember the
Yeah,
show?
yeah,
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 it
yeah,
was
yeah,
just
yeah.
like slowly losing my mind, watching, looking at all this cool
Watch,
stuff outside I can't do.
yeah, watching kids play in the pool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my friend Millpool going to the
Yes.
beach. But yeah, like I couldn't do anything, and obviously my mental state's degrading, and that's even worse for my poker game. And so I gave up. I was like, I'm gonna let it go, and then started playing over a pandemic with some friends remotely, and did pretty well at that because some of them are, really like to gamble and chase their winnings and get fucked up, and then chase their winnings even bigger. And then like starting 21, I was like, I'm gonna play some tournament. Actually, this is funny. That first tournament where I actually won like the final event at that, which was kind of like, oh, maybe I will keep going up here in Colorado. At the Bally's Blackhawk. And one of them I ran into. I don't know if you remember Tim West from the like old days. Teammate,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, teammate.
Teammate, of
Yeah, he
course.
was
Yes.
just there, and it was just like, he came sat at my table like near the end of late registration, and we're just both like, you look familiar. Yeah, so do you. Wait, and then I was like, wait, you're Tim West,
Did
teammate.
teammate? Did he laugh?
We had a little bit of
No, because I
yeah,
could say teammate has one of the distinctive poker
yeah.
laughs.
Oh,
Ike obviously,
yeah.
Roble obviously, but teammate has another one.
Yeah, I'm sure he did once we figured it out. It's a little fuzzy,
Yeah,
but he was like, "Yeah, oh no, yeah." I was like, "I live in San Francisco. I just came out. I like playing here. Colorado's cool." It's like, yeah, it is cool. But then I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, you can play online again now. With, how kind of crypto has made it so you can't. So
yeah,
like they won't run afoul of the banks. So you can just move around money that way. So that's when I started online again.
yeah,
And then I was like, and then unlike 2016 or even like years like 08, 09 when I was getting tired of it, but didn't know what else to do with myself. It was like, oh, I'm having fun again. And it's, even with like this, I was like, oh, I'm actually learning. And, I guess, I don't know if it's maturity, just the maturity of age, changes of lifestyle, taking better care of myself, being somewhere that I find less stressful than Houston. But it's like, oh, yeah, I'm like enjoying the learning process. I'm playing more disciplined, not flipping out all the time. It's just some of the time and not as bad. I
yeah.
haven't broken anything yet. I haven't broken
No, I
anything
think
yet.
I think one of the things about, like, one of the things I've realized with talking to people with punt of the day
Hmm.
is a type of subscriber is somebody who has some sort of real job.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I actually listened to a podcast where somebody was like, look, the reason why I've gotten so bad at poker now is like I play twice a year. And when I play, I want to try to, it's like I want to try to get out every fancy play because I
Oh
know
yeah.
like if you only play poker 4 times a year and you're code dead, that
Yeah. It's
that
sucks
sucks. You're
ass.
like,
Yeah.
this is my like activity for the day, and I
Mm-hmm.
just keep getting 8-3 off that I need to fold. So I'm going to need to do something stupid because I want to play a big pot.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of the people who subscribe to Pun of the Day are people who at one point in time played for a living or played like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and now due to life they can't play as much. So one, they like kind of like reading about a poker hand and puzzling through one every day. But two, I think that type of play, if you can modulate it well,
Mm-hmm.
when you play, you can be more focused. You appreciate the fact that you're playing. Um, you might not have the financial stress of it, because the idea of like, if you play poker every day and you go 2 months without booking a win, you're gonna go nuts.
Right.
If you play a poker tournament, uh, 4 poker tournaments a year, and you go whatever the equivalent to that, I said 2 months. So like you go
Oh
like if you
yeah.
go like a decade without cashing a poker tournament, it won't make you go insane the same way because you don't have. Well, it might, but to me, it wouldn't, because you go, well, like whatever, I'll go back, I'll make money doing that. This is just fun. If I make money, if I
Mm-hmm.
lose money, it's like people who
Yeah.
go to Vegas for a weekend with like $1,000, and they're just like, look, I'm prepared to lose this 1,000,
Mm-hmm.
so it's fine. Now, if you go, I'm going to play $1,000 tournament today, and go, well, I'm not prepared to lose $365,000, and I plan on playing poker, whatever, maybe not 365 days a year, but you know what
Sure.
I mean.
Domestic,
So
whatever.
I do think there is this like this huge class of people who play poker now who will at one point in time some sort of professional poker player,
Yeah.
and they have some aptitude and they have some skills, and then when they do play now, I think one, they tend to get underestimated because um the kind of like rule of thumb used to be like, hey, if some like 48-year-old lawyer is
Mm-hmm.
at your table, do a whale. And it's like, well, this 48-year-old lawyer is somebody who played like 500,000 hands of like online poker,
Yeah.
in his
It's
life just like 15 years ago. So
right.
they might not be the best, but they like with current tools or whatever, but they have a lot of skills.
Yeah, it's funny because yeah, like 20 years ago or whatever, it's like yeah, the 48-year-old lawyer probably was a casual player. Now we're becoming the 48-year-old
Yes,
lawyers. Like
exactly. Yeah.
I'm trying to forget that I'm going to be 45 at the end of this summer. For example.
I used to have like a joke that I felt bad beating people who had kids, because like I'm like, oh, I'm taking money away from like the kids,
Yeah.
and now I'm just like, well, every fucking person I'm playing with has a kid.
Yeah, like you're just not. Yeah,
Yeah,
I imagine
exactly.
there aren't too many. I mean, there are probably a few young guns at the ones you play,
Yeah,
but not
no, there
as many.
are a lot. Yeah, no, of people in my cohort,
Yeah, it's a lot more closer to your age, I imagine.
the majority of them will be married and have kids.
Yeah.
And honestly, like in some of the cases, the people who aren't, um, I'm sure it helps them quite a bit. Like
Yeah, it's
to be able to kind of be like 35 and live like, or like 37 or 40, and have like the be able to structure your life in a way where you can play poker like you're 20, where you
hmm
can just go to every single stop you want to go to, where you could stay up till 3 in the morning if you want to, like all those things, I'm sure uh do help you quite a bit. And like that's
yeah.
um yeah, it's hard, but
Yeah, for me, I definitely felt like, part of it is like, I mean, there's a few things I feel like maybe are uh, that I struggle with to play my best, and it's a lot. Some of it is just you get older. There's a little more risk aversion, especially depending on
Yeah.
the circumstances you're playing under. Um, I actually I get less frustrated when I'm able to grind a lot because if I lose a day or I was like, okay, well tomorrow's gonna be fine too. But then also the older I get, the more other responsibilities I have, the more time I need to spend on other things, and then I don't get to play every day. Or if I'm doing nothing but playing poker, I'm not happy about that either. It's a tough
Yeah.
balance. And then I keep getting frustrated because I'm like, I feel like every time my bankroll is about to break through to somewhere where I'm like, oh, maybe I can make a living at this. I either have some big life expense or just go on a big losing streak. So I feel like I keep knocking at the wherever the
Yeah.
equivalent of the glass ceiling is in this case.
The life expense is also like another
Hmm.
big thing. Where like, yeah, when I was, I started playing poker when I was, 15, I guess, under my parents' name. Um, and my parents paid for my university and stuff like that. So it was just like I remember Dan Smith. I think like I forgot what it was, but like when he was playing in high school, he like bought his mom like he had to buy like a new fridge for his parents. Not like had to, but like
But
chose
yeah.
to buy his. And for me, I'm like, well, like my parents are covering everything,
Hmm.
so it was a video game for me, which it wasn't like I didn't need to like draw down on my bankroll to pay rent or make expenses or whatever. It was a thing
Yeah.
with like, well, if I turned $100 into $1,000, I could start playing. I could go from playing $1 sit and goes to playing $11 sit and goes. And if I turned that into
Hmm.
10,000, I could go to playing $100 sit and goes.
Hmm.
And yeah, like the obviously the real life expenses, if I need to draw down like $1,000 a month to pay for things in my life, then it would have made it a lot harder to climb up stakes. Now
Yeah.
maybe it would have made me hungrier, or maybe I would have grinded more. That the other one. Maybe I would have like spent less time doing nothing in
No.
college. But
I,
it's yeah, like that's like I find like the
mhm.
older you get, you're more likely to have dependents.
Right.
The you're more likely, if it's just you and you need to make whatever sort of cuts in
Hmm.
your life, you bear the full brunt of it. So it's easy to wake up and you can be mad at yourself, but you're like, hey, I got myself in this mess, I can get myself out of it.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to kind of go like, I got other people into this mess,
Yeah. Right.
and they aren't too happy about it, or they would rather not be in this
Yeah,
mess,
I got and other people might leave me if I don't get them out.
Yeah.
Luckily, I guess, yeah, because yeah, it's the same for me because like yeah, when I started, not only was there a lot of easy money, and I was like 24 when things took off, so like well, kind of part of the secret. I feel like I'm the oldest because like everyone else I in the group was 18 or 21 when they really got
Yeah.
going, and I just didn't really become a winning full timer till 24. But it was also like oh, I make 10 grand and I have it doesn't. I take out like 2 months of expenses and then just grind more tournaments. I'm sure I'll make that and then some in that time period. Whereas now it's like, yeah, it's I might my expenses might be 3 to 4 times that much. I have a wife, and thank God she's got a really good job now. Because sometimes it's been reversed, where I'm making the money, she's not, and vice versa. So I'm like, well, I hope she doesn't resent my continuing unemployment. But anyway, yeah, and so like yeah, it's not only and it's I'm a better player now than I was 20 years ago. I feel like it would be impossible not to be if you study it all. But at the same time, it's like yeah, the baseline's so much higher, the win rates aren't as much. Like I
Yeah.
feel like the site I play on the most, I got around like a 30% ROI, which is like feels like awesome these days. Whereas 2006, 7, it was like 60 some percent, like, and I didn't even feel like I was, probably wasn't even one of the best players out there, and it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a lot harder to, which is why I'm trying to find other stuff to do, like this podcast. And all of you, please, go to the Patreon link that you'll be able to see at the bottom of this video to sign up and make sure I can keep doing this. All right, shameless plugs aside, yeah, I just I guess here's another question. What do you think you would be doing if there was a poker? Like if you couldn't play poker anymore, but you're still like set financially, and what would you do with yourself?
It's tough to say because like I don't know who would want me, like
I
uh there's some like
feel like
obvious
that a
answer.
lot generally in my life when it comes to work. Yeah.
The, like I think that the thing a lot of times with like poker players because they will taught themselves the thing and did well and made a lot of money
Hmm.
and it that they're just kind of like like I joke about this but like no it's funny because many of these people actually um did do this but like on the 2+2 sporting events forum
Hmm.
where you kind of like I could be a general manager of sports Steve kind of thing and then like you look and it's like well actually they're kind of our like a bunch of guys who work your front offices on teams
Yeah, I was.
um but the it's like I have I for me like a lot of the things I have where I'm like look I have this aptitude I have these raw skills I
Hmm.
have my domain specific expertise is pretty limited
Sure.
to this one thing and in terms of like oh if I got offered a job to do this there's jobs like that that I'm sure I would love to do like if I could work with if I could like whatever work in the front office of like a sports team in
Sure.
like some capacity that's kind of like an easy kind of like dream job kind of thing
Yeah.
and I got paid like nothing and it was like fun and whatever
Hmm.
but there were also a bunch of like 23-year-old computer science majors who kind of thinking the same thing.
Right.
Um, so all of this is to say is like, there's no. If I think if there were like an easy answer, I probably would have explored it in a way if I felt like some real love or passion
Yeah.
towards something like that. And instead, my attitude is more like, I think I will be good at this. Like if I
Hmm.
wanted to do work in finance, I'm confident I would be good at it
Yeah.
or like adequate at it. Um, and I'm confident I would enjoy it to some extent.
Hmm.
Like maybe not as much as Poku, but it wouldn't be like shoveling coal or something where I'm like
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
sucks. I hate
Yeah.
it.
Man,
Um,
I worked one summer in the kitchen at a pizza place at a freaking Mr. Gaddy's, and I'm like, I'm never doing this kind of work again. I don't care.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
panhandle before this. I'm so miserable.
exactly. So um, no, I wouldn't necessarily like. I don't know. I guess the answer. Like the
Yeah.
reality is, I
Sure.
probably would have just found myself on a pretty sort of safe kind of like white collar path where you
Hmm.
get your degree, you get your first. Because that's what happened to like a lot of people I know. They got their degree, they got their first job. Their first job led to their second job. Their second
Yeah.
job led to their third job. You don't really have a plan, which is kind of how I get here, where I'm 37 and have no work experience or anything like that.
Yeah. But I get that. But at the same time, if you're, yeah. But if you've been doing it at the level you're doing it, then obviously, that is fine.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like, yeah, I got into poker in part because, I didn't ever really want to work for a living. I feel like a lot of my life, and I feel like this may be where upbringing's different. Actually, what did your parents do, if you don't mind me asking?
So my mom got her master's in urban planning, and then she worked in for the city in Toronto, and then she
Cool.
started her own kind of environmental consulting business. And my dad was a teacher, um, and my mom's dad owned a children's clothing company,
Hmm.
and basically there was some point in time there was like some my grandfather had retired there was some issues with the business and my dad at the time was working for the business and he sort of helped them along with like some of his a friend of his sort of make sure they got back on its feet and fixed and shaped up and then when he did that he just said to my grandfather hey can I just take the school uniform business and just
Mhm.
spin it off as my own like independent thing. And my grandfather let him do that. So then he just had the business where he made uniforms for mostly private schools, mostly independent schools, in and around like the Toronto area
Yeah.
mostly. So yeah, he did that.
Oh wow. Okay. Um. Yeah, and where was I going with this? But well, like real quick, how do they feel about having three sons
They,
who all play poker? And
I think,
I don't know how much Max and Luke do other stuff. I'm guessing more than you.
yeah.
Based on the fact that you told me literally no other work experience just now, but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think my parents' general attitude, like I remember Max when he direct bubbled the PCA
Hmm.
in whatever. I'll get the. It was the year that Ike lost You Don't Heads Up. So 2008,
Maybe yeah,
2007.
maybe eight, maybe seven. I want to say seven. I think
Yeah.
that was
So
seven. I think Steve Paul Ambrose was six, and I can't believe I still
yeah,
remember this shit. Uh,
but like the hand was, I forget if it was either Benefield opened and Max, or maybe it wasn't Benefield. Somebody opened and Max Greenwood reshove nines or ace queen. I think that was it, and he got. I believe he shoved nines or ace queen and got called by nines or ace queen, and he
yeah.
lost and he bubbled.
Mm.
And I remember my dad sort of being like, "Well, like like I've worked my whole life. I know what 15,000 American dollars is. You could have just folded, and you would have got the 15,000." And again, it's one of the things which at the time I kind of viewed with like, oh, what a fish, what a donkey, like that logic so
yeah.
bad. But like again, when you sign up to play the poker tournament, you need to get rid of these like basically the societal pressure of what money means. Like
Yeah.
it's a requirement to play good poker. But my dad is correct to some degree. Where
Those.
like yeah, like making I was thinking about the phrase like making an honest living and like
Mhm.
yeah, like making $50,000 if you're like making an honest living is very hard to do. Uh, it's like especially 15,000 and 2007 bucks
Right.
or whatever. And
Yeah, I was like, what is that? Like $700,000 now?
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, go ahead.
But no, I understood it. It may like now I've like I think he's Max played the poker hand the way he was supposed to play the
Hmm.
poker hand, but I have more respect for my parents' position. Now I don't think they should have necessarily voiced it to Max after he busted the
Yeah, the last
tournament.
thing you want to hear, right?
Uh, yeah, but like, so I think that was kind of their attitude, which was like, hey, we don't really get it so long as you're making money though, and you're not like coming to us asking for loans or something. We don't really care.
Yeah.
Uh, but I still think fundamentally there's always going to be some sticker shock about it. I remember my um I didn't even bet that much money on it, but when the Mayweather McGregor fight happened,
Hmm.
okay, I say I didn't bet that much. Bet that much compared to other people I know.
Okay.
I maybe had I like again, but I only had like 20 grand on it.
Okay.
It was the thing that like psychologically messed with me quite a bit because I was just like, well, like should I just be like remortgaging my house and betting like $1 million on this fight? Because if it's a straight up fight,
Hmm.
if there's no chance it's rigged or whatever, Mayweather should win the fight 100% of the time.
Hmm.
Um, but I told my father-in-law about that, and he's done well for himself. We were driving in his Porsche,
Hmm.
and he was like, "I can't believe you bet $20,000 on this." And I was just like, "We're driving you 100. Like, I can't believe you spent $100,000 on a car,
Car, right?
on a car." So there is this element that is like I don't know, like I think that was kind of like fundamentally where they landed, where they were and are proud of us,
Uh-huh.
and that we've done well, and fundamentally they also like most people do not have the constitution for for gambling like
Uh-huh.
that, and the sticker shock of how much money it is,
Uh-huh.
which again is totally reasonable and normal. Um, I've talked about this with friends of mine where um, when like wives or family members or whatever ask how things are going,
Uh-huh.
they tend to just say, "Oh, I won big, I won small, or I lost small, or I lost medium, or I lost big," because when you're playing these stakes, losing small is losing a lot.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
like
like if I'm like, oh, how did today go? Oh, I lost small. It's like, well, how much is small? It's like $30,000. It's
right.
like that's not small. And I'm like, well, like then if you don't think that's small, like wait till you hear about what happened on Sunday.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
kind of.
it does numb you to it in a way that is um not good. Like
Yeah.
it's again, it's this important skill when you are playing poker, and then it's something that you hopefully can compartmentalize.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the other thing that I think happened back in the day,
Yeah.
where people were just like, well, like, I'm so accustomed, and you see the same behavior with, say, people in like sales or whatever. Where, like, even if in a year you might make $100,000, and
Mm-hmm.
every year you're going to make, give or take, $100,000, when you have the $10,000 day, it's very hard to not want to spend 5 grand again.
Right. Yeah. Uh,
And even if you know that it all leads to $100,000 in a year, you need to like consciously be like, no, 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 I need to put this money away. I can't spend it on stupid shit.
right.
Um,
That's
Especially when you're like 21, and like the idea of like savings is doesn't even
right.
cross
And
your mind.
you
Yeah,
know, or
you just like, so long as I have money to cover my expenses going forward,
we'll be
who cares
fine.
what I spent? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and for me, yeah, it was the same. Where it's like, and the flip side for me too, especially after I win, was like, well, I keep moving up and winning. So why wouldn't that keep happening? So why? Who
Yes,
cares? I
exactly.
spend money. I mean, I just wanted 2,500. I'll just move up to 5Ks or 10Ks and beat those, and that did not happen. I
Yes.
lost a lot that way.
I remember when I was playing $20 sitting goes
Mm-hmm.
on full tilt, I was like winning at like a 20% ROI over my first like X sample. And I
Yeah.
talked to Max about it, and he's like, this is unsustainable. Like, we have like databases of people from like all over the world on all different sites playing like 5,000 sitting goes. Nobody has ever like sustained a 20% ROI, even at low stakes. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, sort of like, yeah, but I'm built it, like, even as I
Oh
knew it to
yeah.
be, I was just like, no, 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 you don't understand. I saw this guy call all in with 6-7 suited or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm telling you, in all the games, there's always going to be a guy who calls all in with 7-6 suited. You still can't win more than 10% over like a giant sample.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cause
Um, and yeah, like that's like a very hard thing when you're running good. Even if you intuitively know you're running good, understanding what it's going to be like when things cool down, or that things will cool down, is very hard to conceptualize.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that was definitely my prop because like I had a big because that tournament was in July. I had a big June or what like my memory tells me I told myself I made like 60K in June online or something crazy, and I don't remember if that's
Yeah,
accurate now or not. But yeah, like multiple 5-figure wins certainly. And then like I did this, and it's like you keep moving up, keep going up. Like why wouldn't that keep happening? And then you realize it doesn't, and by the time you realize that, you kind of maybe learn it the hard way. And
yeah.
with
And even that's one other thing that, like, again, I keep coming back to this point. It's like this
Mm-hmm.
fishy logic that conceptually makes sense. Where it's like, okay, so you're winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like are these games full of other terrible poker players? Yes. Am I better than them? Yes. Am I winning overall? Yes. Uh, have I won at a 20% ROI over my last X games? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Will I continue winning at a 20% ROI over my next games? No.
Right.
Like that's a hard mental hurdle to go over, because in any other arena, the idea of like, I am I have been winning at this rate for the last little bit. I'm better than everyone I'm playing with.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, I'll keep winning at this rate. Is like pretty logically tight.
Yeah, but
It just isn't.
it's just
Yeah,
not right. Yeah, with the heat, with how luck goes up and down, and right. I think that was sort of the problem. It's like, well, I'm winning, so especially when you're young, it's like, so I this is going to keep going forever, right? These good times are never going to end. No reason to save for a rainy day. Not only that, when you're younger, I think there's also maybe more of a peer pressure factor, at least in terms of like you're not, people aren't really necessarily fully formed at 18 or 21 or even 25,
yeah,
and you're like, oh, well, my friends want to go out and party. I'm going to go spend a bunch of money with them, even though, like, well, clubbing a few times in Vegas, like, I hate clubs. I mean, I like going out.
yeah,
I like all individual elements of club. I like going out and having a drink. I love music and I love dancing. And clubs are like the worst version of all those things put together. It's loud and I can't talk to anybody. And I don't like this particular music. But I did it anyway because, people I knew
yeah,
were doing it. And it's what you're supposed to do, right? Um, and so at least, being older, it's like, yeah, now, if that happened to me again, I'm like, I know exactly where I'd spend it. And I tell everyone else to fuck off, more or less. You know what I mean? Which is, I think, just one of those things that
yeah.
comes with maturity.
And also, like, sometimes with some of the things you need to learn, like, oh, it turns out
Mm,
there is an element of it where, like, when people like sort of evangelize about certain things to you, you're like, wow, this sounds like the greatest thing in the world.
mm,
Though, there are people who truly like clubbing,
yeah,
and they're not just like stupid people or people with bad taste or whatever.
right.
Uh, and that I feel also was a very sort of like the like loosely misogynistic kind of like 2 plus 2 kind of thing, like early internet culture type,
Yeah. Oh,
early
Jesus
internet
Christ.
culture, early internet culture type thing of
Yeah.
like, yeah, people who like this kind of like angry nerd kind of archetype thing of like people who go clubbing are losers,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Bunch
and
of
yeah,
bunch of
like what,
Romans from Party Down posting online
yeah,
that they
exactly,
can play
yes.
poker too.
Yes, and then you found it's like, well, like, yeah, okay, it's not for me. There were things I like about it. There were things I don't like about it.
Yeah.
Uh, I also feel like there was this, yeah, this peer pressure thing with like, hey, like you might not like clubbing, but if you tried spending $10,000 to get a table, then you might like it,
Yeah. Right.
And it's like, oh no, turns out I slightly prefer it when I have my own private space, but for not that much.
Yeah, and
Um, and I mean, yeah, I've still had a lot of fun when I did. That was the thing I did
mm,
going out. And again, it's hard to get into the mindset of like 21-year-olds or whatever, because when
mm,
you're 21, you do want to do that stuff, and it is
yeah.
fun. Uh, but yeah, like I think there was definitely a lot of like. It's also just when you make, like the thing when you're like 19 or 21 and you're like, I made $100,000 this year, and you
Yeah.
feel like you're like the richest guy in the world, and now you're just like, I made $100,000 this year. It's like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, I'm a teacher who like has 2 kids and like has a mortgage, and it's like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
it's like it's just this scale where you go from having no money
Yeah.
to having like adult money,
Yeah. And like
but you are not an adult.
more, yeah, even more than a lot of adults, like that
Yeah,
was. like, yeah, that was certainly me, even though it was later in life. Because, like, I lived through 4 years of college where I barely had any money, where, like, to the point where, like, it was causing problems for me to be able to finish my education because, like, I couldn't afford books. And then, like, the first year after college, I was completely broke and spent some months living on friends' couches. And then, a year after about all that, all of a sudden, I have more money than all my friends. And I'm
Yeah,
like, all right, what do you guys want to do? Hey, we'll go out, drinks on me. That would be fine. $100, $200 bar tab, whatever. But it's the $3,000 at the club, and I can't hear anyone enough to talk to them, and I don't like the music enough to dance to either. And also, we're like six poker nerds, so no women are coming to talk to us.
yeah.
So yeah, that's all the things I don't want about this. But
I
yeah,
remember the first one of my first nights at university.
yeah,
I went to a bar and just from like drinks, I
hmm
just spent like whatever, like $100 or something. Maybe I
hmm
got a couple of rounds or whatever it was, and then I was just like, oh, like that's a lot of. It felt like so much money to me, and then I didn't think of it in terms of like I've seen people blow, like a lot of money, but like then you look at like what maybe blow like $1 million or like or something like that. But then you go, well, like blowing $1 million over like a 5 year period of time or a 10 year period of time just
hmm
isn't that hard. Like
yeah,
it, but then you look at like like athletes or like whatever, or like you like Nick Cage's or Robert De Niro's, and it's like, oh, those guys blew. Like if people can blow like $50 million, $100 million just by like bad investments and spending like crazy,
hmm
then like that disconnect between being like I'm 21, I have $200,000, I'm the richest person in the world, and being like if I have a losing year at poker and keep spending like this, I might be broke.
yeah.
Is like it's something that like you cannot really prepare for like emotionally or psychologically. It's very hard.
Yeah, and then I feel that because, like, yeah, like I said, a couple years later, I done some poker traveling and stuff. It's funny, my actual second biggest, I'll get to that in a second because I actually, was being back. My second biggest cash on hand and mob is that the second of 1500, the LA Poker
Yeah.
Classic in '08. But I was being back for that, so I only got half of it. So it's but my second biggest cash was actually went to the Aussie Millions in '07 and had like 10% Jimmy Fricky, if you remember him.
Yes.
Yeah,
Of
and he finished
course.
second to Gus Hansen. So bam, 100 grand Australian, which was like 71 US. It was
Yeah.
like cool. I didn't have to do it. Which that was my big disappointment. It's like right at the end of '06, I got to the point. It's like, oh, I can invest in other players because and they'll make money. I don't remember if you remember or if you were around for that sort of limit heads up duel. Guild Wolf, Zach Finkelstein, I think his real name, and Jonathan Drain, who went by HIV, and I
Yes.
believe has yeah, but yeah, so I was back again, and he was just smoking him. So I was like, yeah, that made me another like 20, 25 grand. I think what I think HOV still owes me money. I was talking about this a couple because one of the actually you can kind of see it in the background there. The one I have two of these trophies, but I don't know where the other one is. One of my Turning Stone wins from
Yes.
back in the day, but. I stayed up all night playing cash before the tournament. He saw me and he was like, "You look like shit. I'm gonna cross book you." It's like, "How much?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll cross book the whole thing." And he didn't cash, and I won the fucking tournament. I don't think I ever got paid though. There's a fair bit of that going around back then too. Um,
Yeah. There was just yeah. I mean, like everything is. It's funny because like now we're at the age where we talk about like 2006, like it was like the
uh-huh.
Wild West, and then
Yeah,
like if you talk to like Doyle,
yeah. Or it's like
they would
the
be like, "No, you
literal
were
Wild West. Like,
literal Wild West." Yeah. Um, no, I mean, yeah, like that was the other thing too. Like even like backing people, the idea was just like, hey, this guy's good at poker. I
mm-hmm.
will buy his action, and people treated it like it was a, like an index, like a bond or something.
Yeah,
That was just like, oh, it'll like pay out money, and it's like, no, that's not how backing people works. It's not passive income.
yeah,
The people who have done well backing people in poker are very active.
yeah. You have to.
You have to yeah, like you have to do a lot of it's a lot of work, and that's why I mean, there were a couple of like makeup deals I think people realized were not good, and the
Hmm.
psychologically the arrow bows on them were like it's just too likely you'll just have people who get stuck in makeup that's so loud that they'll never get out of, even
Yeah.
if they're winning players. Um, but
And just,
um, yeah, that like just all the thing that we're just kind of like, well, I'm smart and I'm good at poker, so therefore the money will flow to me somehow.
yeah.
And it turned out that like you need luck, you need to be you need to be prepared for a lot of bad things. Like it's just a lot.
Hmm.
It's a lot how to, especially once you get things like Black Friday or the UAGA or just like
Yeah.
things that change, like shift the gravity of like the game on like a macro level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it seems like but yeah, I'm sure I've never. Those are really my only real backing experience. I didn't have anything long term, but it's like yeah, I imagine you not only well, okay, there was one more, and then the guy lost all the winnings at blackjack or craps or something, and then took like a year to finally pay me back. When someone else started backing him, and he finally won something. That was Kevin Stammen. I don't know if you remember that name. That was like 07, 08 or something like that.
He's still around,
Yeah.
Sam Dog.
Well, he he settled up eventually, but that was not good. I mean, I've been a losing horse for some other people too, so I probably can't say too much.
Yeah.
But I never won something and then didn't pay what I was supposed to. When I probably owe some people money, but it was not I'm ripping you off. It was I
I mean, and he
ran
did end
out
up,
of money.
yeah, he did end up, to Kevin's credit, he did end up paying you back.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
mean, I think that
There are a lot of
I
people who probably
remember,
wouldn't. Yeah, especially
I
back
remember
then.
the when we were betting sports on 2+2, there was like a
Hmm.
sports betting thread, which was also crazy. It was just like people being like, I want to get 10K on this game. And you would just bet against them.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who we were betting against, and he had like done well. Oh, sorry, we had been doing well with him. And then one day he was just kind of like, I want to bet like these like 11 games or something. And that should have been like a red flag. Like, uh,
Hmm.
and he got smoked.
Yeah.
Like it was like one of those things where like if we were to pay, if he went 8-4, or if we went 8-4, we probably would have got paid. But like we went like 11-0 or something.
Oh my god.
But he just said, "Okay, I don't have the money right now. Give me like 3 or 4 months, and then I'll just start paying you like 2K a week or like
Mm.
2K a month or something, or whatever the thing was." And over, like it was, he owed us like 100K, and over like a couple of years, he just paid us back. And I'm like,
Wow.
well, people like don't try to not get in situations where you're gambling with money that you don't have, but like
Right.
uh, the people who do that, like it takes some amount of resolving character and whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
To actually. Yeah, to actually get it back. I mean, that's the funny thing. I was just thinking that you're talking about. We're talking about the Wild West and stuff. It's like part of the whole sort of poker economy and society is, you have to be good for your word. Just because, like,
yeah,
if I'm sure if you like took up a trainer and you just didn't have cash on you and like I need 25 or whatever for this tournament to fill it up, and people know, like, if you just never pay them back, well, then that's going to stop happening. And speaking of the Wild West aspect, I mean, it was that way back in the day, except I think when we were starting, we're all young, yeah, that was something you counted on, but maybe we didn't have the enforcement methods if, they didn't pay back, right? Whereas, Doyle
yeah,
in the 70s or 80s in Texas, it's like, yeah, you probably won't get in those games, or you will probably, a gun will probably come out at some point if you
yes,
are ripping people off.
yeah. I mean, they still. I've joked like that's another one too, which is like for all the like most we talked about like the bank robberies and the da da
Uh-huh.
da. There's kind of no more like undefeated scam than just being like I'm not paying.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Like it's a really effective scam to just be like yes, sorry about that one.
Yeah,
Like yeah, don't feel like it, not
yeah,
today.
it's yes, leave a
Um,
yeah, learning the lessons of our current American president. That is seems to be his
Yes.
approach to most failed business deals. Is I'm not paying for that. I'm just not going to do
Yeah.
it. It's like, well,
And
yeah,
what are you gonna do? Sue me?
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like unless
exactly.
people have, yeah, if they don't have any enforcement methods besides complaining, then there's not much that can be
Yes.
done.
Yeah.
Um, what was I? 'Cause I didn't cover some of the stuff I'd asked you about because I was going to talk about my own upbringing as well. And part of it, I think, part of the reason, I never really wanted a job or to work. I don't think many people like jobs, but my dad was a lawyer. My mom's a school teacher, but my dad had personal problems when I was a kid, and some addiction problems, and like they ended up getting divorced when I was 13, and so they weren't making. We weren't making a lot of money. But my mom had to go back to teaching when they got divorced. So living on like an elementary school teacher in Louisiana's
Yeah.
salary. My dad and I have had a lot better relationship in my
That's
adulthood, and he was,
sorry, that's funny because like in my whole adult life in like the teachers union in Toronto is very strong.
yeah,
They frequently strike. They have a very good pension plan. Uh, so my baseline when you say my mom was a teacher, I'm like, oh, okay, so like pretty good money,
like no,
pretty good money and a good pension. And then you said not true in Louisiana,
no,
and I'm like,
it's,
oh.
yeah, it is not. I don't know what she's told me before what she makes now. I mean, I think my wife makes significantly more right now, but she
Yeah,
works at one of the casinos up here. She's a gift shop manager and visual design department manager, and it's just like, yeah, there are all these rich people who need stuff. Like, there's a few high rollers that come in and buy like custom Swarovskis and shit. Like, there's one guy who
yeah,
bought like a Swarovski Superman for his son or something. It was like 30 grand. Anyway, so yeah, they didn't understand that, but it was also just like, I don't know, Lake Charles, my family, the culture there in general. I'm not saying everyone there is terrible. Like, I've got friends, I've got family I really love, but like just a lot of people are not happy and didn't like the way they live. So like, sort of as a little kid, I was like, I don't want to make the same decisions they made because they all seem
yeah,
unhappy, and then I might be unhappy too. So that's what, like, I'm gonna find my own way. And that's the other thing, is I never really felt like I had much of a. I've been winging it my whole life. I never really had a role model or mentor or anything like that. So, but I think I'm doing okay given all that. And where was I going with this? The funny thing, so it's like, yeah, it wasn't the supportiveness. I guess like you said, your parents like, well, if you're making money and you're not borrowing from us, that's fine. Like, when I started, and I was like, hey, I think I'm good at that. There's a lot of skepticism. Except my dad was like, like I said, he was the guy. He's like, hell yeah, way to go, son. Just keep doing it.
yeah,
And like, he was really supportive of me when I was starting. He was kind of the only one. And then my folks realized just how much I was making, and I go, okay, I guess it is fine. But yeah, I took him to my guest on the Aussie Millions trip when I won that on Full Tilt, because he'd had like a quadruple bypass like the summer before, and it was like, let's give him something to look forward to, and since he was so supportive of me, and that was fun. We took like a tour somewhere, and like got off the bus at our first stop and failed to get it back. And my dad being like, it's kind of where I get some of my people personness from, is that he just met some local, chatted up, is like, hey, we missed our tour bus. You mind like driving us up there? And they're like, yeah, we just rode with this random guy in Australia for an hour that my dad just befriended. And it's like, yeah, that's the kind of thing I liked about him and missed about him.
I
But
feel overall the attitude in Australia is like they're very hospitable, and I think some of it has to do with the fact that they're like, I can't believe you flew all the way over here. Like it's crazy,
it is a long
you
ass
know.
flight.
Yeah, I was gonna say your dad had quadruple bypass and then flew, I
Like,
guess, L.A. or San
yeah,
Francisco
we
or
flew to
whatever.
LA, then to
Yeah, yeah,
stay there the night, then yeah,
yeah,
Melbourne.
exactly. And I'm like, that's a long flight for somebody who
Yeah,
recovered
it was
from
it
heart
was
surgery.
God, that was I'm trying to remember when exactly. Oh, it was right around it was yeah, it was right after I came back, because it must have been like mid-August, because that's when my birthday is. And like the World Series schedule was later back then, right? So like
Yeah,
my early bracelet event was like mid-July, and I just stayed there for a month. And so when I flew back, it was right around my birthday. And then like the day after I got back, my sister calls me to tell me about my dad, and So I went and visited him for a few days, and then when I won that seat, I was like, yeah, come with me. You've been, especially because I haven't talked about this much, but I had a pretty serious medical incident at the end of '05.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
you're
I'm aware
aware,
of
I'm
this
sure.
from 2+2. Yeah.
Yes, and yeah, and some people are real shits about it there, but that's unsurprising. I had a lot of haters. I mean, it's true. Like, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do? But at least now it doesn't bother. They don't bother me as much. I probably wasted too much time trying to hit them back. Anyway, but yeah, he showed up for me there. He took care of me through all that, and like, always kind of been grateful for that. And so I was like, yeah, let me do this for you. And I forget why I started telling this story. I guess maybe just sort of contrast our bringings where it's like, like your folks, seem stable and good at what they do. My dad's practice kind of fell apart when he was going through his problems, and then like he didn't have a private practice anymore. And he's spent like the last, couple of decades of his life, I guess, working for like the Department of Social Services in Louisiana, and so like placing children or getting children out of abusive homes and stuff, and which is really good work, and doesn't pay as much as
Yeah.
being a private practice trial lawyer, obviously. But
Yeah.
anyway, they were well. It is funny because like they got divorced, and we were all pretty excited about that because they were like never happy together, and all they did was fight. So it was like, why now? Why not sooner?
Yeah. Somebody in my life, parents like recent, like who's
Mhm,
like my age, recently got the parents recently got divorced, and
mhm.
like they kind of had that attitude as well. They're like, what took you so long?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Like
like
I remember being 12 and you guys didn't seem to like each other.
yeah, like that's what I remember is like they would snipe at each other, or it was weird. So like they turned. I feel like the first few years of my life were kind of normal, and then like around the time they turned 40, they kind of diverged. My mom got really into like sort of eschatological Christianity, for lack of a better term, like
Yeah.
second coming, apocalypse type stuff, kind of culty stuff, if I'm being honest. I don't think she's listening. Um, Sorry, mom, if you are, I still love you. It's just facts are facts. And then my dad kind of, yeah, sort of, more, painkillers and alcohol. And they kind of diverged. And, my dad would just be at work all the time, then come home super late and just like sleep in his recliner to like old, fall asleep to old war movies or whatever. And, they weren't even spending time together, for the last however many years. And that was the sort of thing that was maybe like, well, I'm probably never gonna get married because like I'm not gonna, I don't want to end up like that. I don't know what's gonna happen. I never thought, and then I met Carolyn, and she's fantastic. It's like, oh, this is what it's actually supposed to be like when you like someone gets you. You get each other. Like
Yeah.
I had a hard time finding that for most of my adult life. Um, but yeah, that was. Uh, yeah, I didn't mean to just like exposit about my own life. This is supposed to be more of
Well,
a
I mean,
conversation than
I
that,
will
but
say,
sorry, go ahead.
one of my fears as like a podcast
Mm-hmm.
listener is you want this kind of like hangout conversational like chatty vibe, but then a lot of times when I am on a podcast I am like the guest,
Right.
uh and then I'm like, do people apparently want to hear what I have to say? So in my personal life, like that's something I really have tried to work on, is like
Yeah.
being a better listener, not talking over people, waiting your turn, uh recognizing that whatever you're thinking is not necessarily like the smartest best thing in the history of the world. uh
Yeah.
actually listening to somebody instead of just thinking about what you're going to say next, all
Yeah.
those things. But then when you're getting interviewed, there is like an element that's like, no, apparently I am supposed to be the one, like it's this weird muscle with like in one area of my life I need to be a more democratic conversationalist,
Yeah.
and then when you're getting interviewed it's like, no, you are supposed to some degree be like the main attraction, which is it's like a hard thing
Yeah.
to fight back
I
against.
feel like I'm walking a fine line here in part because, like, yeah, I want it to be part interview, part conversation, and like I've said, stuff that like other shows aren't talking about, which is where not like, oh, what's the poker news of the day, or strategy question. I thought about opening with a joke strategy question, be like, all right, this is the show nobody where we talk about things nobody else talks about. So, Sam, how do you play Ace King? Just like the most basic, I'm playing poker the first time in my
Yeah.
life question.
First hand of the World Series main event. Somebody goes all in and flips up ace king face up, and you have deuces in the big blind. What do you do?
Ooh,
You know?
yeah. What
Yeah.
is the edge you're supposed to have there? Actually, I think they figured it out with ICU and stuff. I actually don't know.
Well, that
Haven't.
question was always a skill edge question,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of like, would you really torch it? But yeah, no, I think it's yeah. Also, like if you were to do, you pitched this, I think, on the Patreon as being kind of like a WTF of poker kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Mm.
And if what would the and I will say the WTF of comedy is gone. So
Yeah. We
there
gotta.
is a yeah you
We'll
could be,
vacuum, and if this goes great, maybe we'll start getting non-poker players. I'll be the
but
new
yeah
big.
yeah, but you need to yeah you I don't know you're in a garage type setup
Yeah.
kind of,
Got my office
but
here.
you need to oh yeah, like no more classic Bjorn thing than like talking about his parents, talking
Exactly.
about his. You don't have ex-wives to talk about, but
No.
maybe you could.
Well, yeah. Give me a year or two. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm kidding.
But
She's gonna get a mad stare, but nothing else. I don't think, because she knows I don't mean that.
yes,
So, but what I was gonna say is the fine line is, I do want it to be part interview, part conversation, and I don't mind talking about myself, and I definitely think it would be like shitty to like ask you personal questions and not be willing to open up. The problem is, ideally, I'm going to have a different guest every week, and I'm still going to be the same me every time. So I don't. I have a worry that I'm just going to be repeating the same things about myself week in, week out. So that's another thing I'm trying to avoid.
that's like I remember when I like in the early days of podcasts when like
Mm-hmm.
my wife would joke about this. Like she would listen to the. She does not watch, never cared for MMA, and she
Mm-hmm.
would watch the Joe Rogan fight explainers because there were so few podcasts that she's like, well, I like listening to Rogan talk to Ike was on Rogan
Oh
way
yeah.
back when.
Did
Yeah,
I tell you I
let's see
met
what.
Rogan? I must have told you that.
No, I don't know if you have.
Yeah, my brother's wedding 4 years ago.
Oh
Second
yes,
wedding.
yes,
Yeah.
this is
He
yes,
he looks
yeah.
really weird in person. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like
Well, it's
all that
funny
hair
because
or
I
whatever is looks like he's making about to pop out of his skin.
I just googled Joe Rogan, Isaac Haxton.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Joe Rogan Experience 526 from 2014.
Yeah.
911 comments on it, 339,000 views. But what's funny is like Rogan looks like a normal guy in it.
Yeah.
Like
How long
like
ago was this?
he does not look like the proportions or whatever of his body seem reasonable. He looks kind of normal.
Yeah.
And like I don't know whatever he's doing. I
Yeah.
mean, I know people have made the joke about Rogan and others in regards to the trans conversation
Mm-hmm.
about Rogan being a type of person who is taking hormones to perform gender identity.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Exactly.
just in a different way.
Gender
Uh,
affirming.
and- yeah, exactly. And if you look at him in this one, it's like you look like a guy who looks like a normal guy who goes to the gym, who's into MMA as a like hobby or whatever.
Right.
And now you look at him and it's like it's a totally different
I
thing. He
mean,
looks
yeah. He looks like. I mean, my best compare. It's like a sausage with too much filling in the casing. Like his skin
yeah,
looks like it's gonna bust out. It's funny. I feel a little bad though, because like the only thing I got to say to him, because he left pretty early, was just like, "Oh man, I love news radio. It's one of my favorite shows." And I was like, "Look, I didn't mean to like be like that thing you did 25 years ago was cool. I don't give a shit about anything since, but I didn't get to talk to him more. I kind of wanted to talk just about stand up, because I did stand up for a few years in Houston. I'm sure I've told you that. And I don't know how
yeah.
much of my audience knows that, but it's like, yeah. Comedy's one of my favorite things. Like, if I wasn't, a poker, well, say if I wasn't playing poker, what would I do? It's like, well, I'm still kind of trying to find that because I'm not making. I mean, I'm winning at poker. I'm not making a living solely at it. And it's like, yeah, music, comedy, and storytelling in some other form, maybe screenwriting or whatever. Those are like my favorite things to do. It's like if I had money was no object, I had like a year. I just like teach myself like music production and everything, and it's like I'm gonna make my own album by myself.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I did want to talk to him about that at least a little. I'm not like antisocial. I don't go around being pricks to people at weddings. Or I try not to. I mean, I guess you have to ask the people to get the real answer on that
But I will
one.
say, like, you legitimately love news radio. It's not
Yeah,
like
it's one of my
it's
favorite
not like
things of
a
all time.
it's not like a bit where if I were to go up to, I can't pull an example off the top of my
Hmm.
head, but if I were to go up to Eddie Murphy and go like, "Hey Eddie, I love your albums,"
Yeah.
he would be like, "Fuck you, you're being an asshole," right?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but what about, I don't even know
Uh,
what he's done lately. I was going to say Norbit or some shit, but even that's like 20 something years ago.
well, Amazon did
I
a
love
coming.
Coming to America, the sequel, not
Yes,
the original.
yes, I was going to say yes. I know there was a Coming to America. He was in the Rudy Ray Moore movie about the making of Dynamite.
Oh, Dolomite. Oh, yeah.
Dolomite.
Dolomite's my
Sorry,
name.
Dolomite.
Nice.
Dolomite is my name.
Yeah. I haven't
But that
seen.
was 2019 now, because I remember
Yeah.
there was Oscar buzz around that. I guess there was a Beverly Hills Cop thing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think Eddie Murphy is. I mean, is he's just somebody who's like so talented as a comedic performer,
Hmm.
and just seem to have like it's he just doesn't really seem all that. I mean, I've heard interviews of it, and he seems to kind of like indicate it to some degree, which is he knows how hard he needs to work to make something good and popular
Hmm.
and whatever. And I think he's just happy like being a dad with millions of dollars.
Yeah, it's like there's a certain point. It's like, yeah, do I want to work that hard anymore? Or
Yeah,
I
like
say, do I have any?
why would he?
Yeah, do I have anything to
Um,
say?
but yeah, like Rogan is.
I.
I think like throughout people like that I am fascinated by in the
Mhm.
context of like I would imagine the Rogan you get in real life is pretty close to the Rogan you would get on the podcast. He's probably
Seems like it.
a little less on, but throughout
Yeah.
people like that, I do wonder with like, are they like that all the time? Like how much of it is an act? How much is it a put on? What are they
Sure.
like? What are they like at home? With like nobody around.
Yeah.
But
I know. I think it's like, oh, I've met a handful of celebrities, so maybe, but it's like, yeah, Rogan. I think you're probably right, and I think even you were the one who pointed at me. My sister-in-law has actually been on the show a couple times. I don't think my brother has. But yeah, well, the other thing I was gonna say is like the reason I feel a little bad about the news radio thing. It's not like it was his show. He was like 1/8 of the
yeah,
cast,
exactly.
Where so it's like,
Well,
uh,
I think I've told you my brother Luke was the camp counselor of Dave Foley's child,
oh, nice, yeah,
which is one of the things that in like Canada, like
oh yeah,
Canada's a small country,
and
so the idea that you might have some sort of like 6 degree of separation thing with a random Canadian celebrity is not that
unheard of,
unusual.
yeah,
But
but
no, I mean, I would have yeah, like obviously if you told Dave Foley, oh, I love Juice Radio, I love
yeah,
Kids in the Hall, he
yeah.
would probably have a
Those are
different
two of my
reaction to it.
favorite shows of all time. Probably two,
Yes.
top five. Which reminds me, you told me you never even seen The Kids in Hall, which is astounding to me.
Now,
Like,
Kids in
uh,
the Hall, as a Canadian, you
hmm,
become wary of certain Canadian content things.
sure.
Like the the CBC is not like like the BBC had this reputation as being like, oh, it's like this august news organization that people from all over the world would wish to
Hmm.
watch, and the CBC has a lot of kind of junk, and
Yeah.
and when you're, it has good. I mean, without getting too deep into it, one of my actual gripes with the CBC, and they try to make sort of like popular shows.
Hmm.
Like, what I mean is, like, if you're a government news channel, you should not be trying to make like, you should be trying to make something that has like, um, like critical value, that is of high quality, that
Hmm.
might not be the most popular, but like, yeah, like there was a show on the CBC I'm looking up right now called Outland,
Uh-huh.
that I guess is like kind of like a Canadian Yellowstone or something, that has
Okay.
been running for 19 seasons, has 280 episodes,
Wow.
um, and is about people who I think own like a horse ranch in Alberta, in Houtland, Alberta, which I believe is not a real place.
I
Um,
don't think I've
so
legit never heard of this.
there was a lot of there's a lot of Canadian content like that, and when you're
Hmm.
a kid, the idea is it's like, hey, if there's a network show,
Oh, okay.
if there's an
American.
if there's an American show
Hmm.
that yeah, like if there's an American show that has real actors and movie stars, it is good. And if it's a Canadian show, it is bad. And
Yeah.
now there's kind of the irony, of course, where like, that happened with like Schitt's Creek, where like I feel like in America, people are like, Schitt's Creek is like my favorite show. It won all the Emmys, and
Yeah.
every single Canadian is like, that one, really? Like,
Well.
because I had like, whenever Schitt's Creek premiered in the States, there were like, there were like 3 or 4 seasons of it, I feel,
Hmm.
already, when
Oh
it like
yeah.
first
Yeah,
aired
you might be
somewhere.
right. I don't
And
know
then in
about
like
that.
Canada, we're like, wait, this show that I've been ignoring for like 4 years is now nominated for Emmys.
Right? Yeah. I
Okay,
guess.
now so it debuted on Pop TV
Mhm.
in the US. So
What
not
is
like
Pop TV?
consecutively with the premiere in Canada.
Okay. I've
So I get the idea though is like at some point in time it moved to some sort of like US network that was
Yeah, I know it was on
slightly more popular,
Hulu.
or yeah, went on Hulu, went on streaming or something
I
like
feel
that.
like it must have been somewhere before. Okay, because the wiki says April 2022. It's like I could have sworn it was on there before because I don't know how people would have gotten it otherwise. Because I never heard of Pop until just now. But
Yeah.
apparently it's a pay service through Paramount, Skydance, Netflix. It says, yeah, I never really got into Schitt's Creek either, so I guess I'm more of the Canadian perspective on that. Watched like half a dozen episodes and laughed like twice, which is too bad. There's a ton of talent I love, Chris
Yeah.
Elliott, Get a Life, also one of my favorite shows. If you haven't seen that, anyone out there, highly encourage you to. But it just wasn't that funny. And then people are talking about like, oh, but it gets really good in a couple seasons. And then they're like, oh, because it's just so heartwarming about how good it gets or whatever, and about how these rich people who lose their money learn to be rich again. And it's like that doesn't sound heartwarming to me. And also, I don't watch comedy for it to be heartwarming. I mean, if it's good at that, okay, but I think just being funny is possible. It's hard and doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah, I feel there's this, I definitely agree with that. We're like, I know you actually like this show a lot, and I do not.
Which one?
Or I quit it was BoJack, and I
Oh,
feel like
that. Well, okay. I'll.
I feel the specific thing about BoJack that irked me about. Now, I actually think BoJack is a very funny comedy.
Mhm.
What kind of bothered me about BoJack is it kind of had the like Futurama, like Mash joke with the switch that was modeling and then
Yeah,
irreverent.
yeah,
And
yeah.
what frustrated me about BoJack, and they were like, "Oh, like what's so good about it is that it's very funny and it's great comedy, and it also had these like emotional things." And I'm like, but if I find if the emotional parts of it don't work for me,
Yeah,
like I'm not giving them credit for trying. I would rather have a show that's wall to wall humors and a no emotional stuff,
yeah.
than a show that tries to kind of force an emotional stuff that doesn't work for me. Now,
Right.
if people are going to say, "Well, I found that stuff very moving," I thought it was like true to life about kind of like narcissism and addiction and depression
Mhm.
and all that, and I'll say, "Sure, fine." I'm not going to argue with that. I've not watched enough of the show to like give a point by point breakdown of it. But for me, that's why it didn't work. That I did not find it to be like a.
Hmm.
I thought it was kind of dealing with, kind of treated with kids' gloves when it dealt with serious things. Where they're like, can you believe this wacky comedy is dealing with that?
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like that's kind of a lot of the culture right now,
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, do you want to watch this like um 3 hour like Holocaust drama about trauma? And it's like, no, no, no. It's like, okay, do you want to watch a 3 hour Marvel movie that ham-fists in some trauma stuff? It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, 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 that's moving.
Oh
And
my
like,
God.
you know, I will say this with the caveat that like I remember when Terrence Malick's A Hidden Life came out in
Hmm.
2019. So it's like a 3 hour 253, 2 hour 53 minute movie
Shit.
about a German guy, I think German, maybe Austrian guy, who's a conscientious objector.
Uh-huh.
Um, on I think based for religious reasons, in World War II, living in Germany or Austria or whatever. And I just remember like for like weeks, I like all of the Terrence Malick movies I've seen. He's one of my favorite directors. And like for weeks, I would be like, I need to watch this, and then I'd be like, yeah, not today.
Yeah.
So I am a hypocrite, I guess, a little in that
I
capacity. But
mean, but sometimes it's what you're in the mood for, what you'd spend. I guess, yeah. What bothers me is like what you're saying about the Marvel stuff, where it just seems like this shallow tacked on, and also I hate
yeah,
how everything now is people explaining. Oh, I do this because of traumatic backstory reason, and it's like
yeah,
there's more that shapes us than our experiences. What's like your fundamental character and motivations and
yeah,
goals in life, and so
yeah. It's also I feel like death became this really cheap currency for serialized dramas
hmm
where they're like, well, like what episodes of the shows do people really like? It's like, oh well, we kill off a major character. That's important.
yeah,
And then like you'd have these dramas that would kind of like build to these finales that were like okay, 5 people have a target on their head, and then we're going to blow your mind with which one actually gets killed. And I was like, yeah, like you could kill off anybody,
hmm
like like I could kill off a character in the show, like like
yeah,
boom, he's dead. He's dead. It's not real life, and I think it became this kind of like artificial way to get this build to this moment where because there
okay,
are like like I thought the way in the Wire the way they killed Omar, spoiler for like a whatever
yeah.
15-year-old episode of
More. That was
TV.
2008, I think. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
uh, it was legitimately shocking. It
Yeah.
was like it was in the middle of the season. It was in a scene with no real build up to it. Um, and because of that, it hit like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
We were like the shows where they're just kind of like it's also like the Star Wars thing where they're just like, wow, the twist is that like when Star Wars did a credit to them, but the
hmm
twist of like this character is somebody's father or mother or brother or whatever. It's like again, you can make up whatever shit you want.
Yeah.
If
It's
it
just
were real life, this would be wild. This would be crazy. I
yeah.
couldn't believe it. But here you're just like, yeah, it's his dad, and I'm like, okay, big deal.
Yeah, and I feel like even on that topic specifically, like when it's like everybody's related, it makes it, feel like a smaller world to me, not a bigger
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
It's like mind blowing coincidence, or it's like, bad storytelling in the line I like to use. It's the wouldn't it be cool if rule. It's like,
Yeah.
why is this happening? If you can't think of the reason besides, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? Then what's the point?
Yes. It's
Um,
all. Yeah, like in regard to coincidence, I think of like if you took kind of like an episode of like a sitcom that was kind of had like some farcical elements in it, that would be the craziest day of like anyone's life.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
happy
Like if
endings,
you're
for
like,
example. Yeah.
yeah, if you're like, and then somebody like stepped on my foot and they spilled coffee on me, and then my shirt was stained, and then like my boss came in and like whatever. It's like this would be a story you would be dining out on for years,
Yeah.
and the reason is because it's so improbable
Yeah.
and it's so crazy. But when it's fiction, it ceases to be improbable because you can make up whatever the
Yeah,
fuck you want.
it's
And then like these plots that are like, wow, like can you believe this crazy thing happened? It's like it's the a cliche I hate
mm,
is where people say you couldn't make this up, and it's like no, you could.
you definitely, yeah, you
It's
did.
it's yeah, like in like sports where it's like you couldn't script a game like this. It's like
Yeah.
oh yes I could, trust me.
Yeah, it's actually quite easy. In a script, you can make
Yeah,
whatever you want happen. That's part of the reason I was going to say I never watched Draft Day because I'm like the actual NFL draft has plenty of interesting drama, and then like reading what happened in the movie, I was like, this would never. This is like too stupid and implausible for me to believe as a big NFL draft student. One of my
yeah,
side projects, the Draft Day. Real quick, BoJack Horseman, not as big a fan as I used to be. I liked about halfway through. I feel like it kind of took a downturn and really started wallowing in the depression more, or like started to rehash points. I liked the end of season 2 because I felt like it was really optimistic. That's the one, if y'all don't remember, where it ends with him trying to start jogging and he runs into the guy voiced by that guy who like got away from Scientology. I forget his name, but he's like, it gets easier. Every day it gets easier, but you got to do it every day. That's the hard part. And so, like, to me, it's like, there's a bit of optimism. It takes work. It takes, like, I like some optimism in my stories. I'm not one of those people, there's a lot of people who are like, oh, everything's so dark or whatever. And I hate dark and I just want it to be fluffy. But it's like, that doesn't work for me either. I like optimism, but it has to be earned, hard won a lot of the times. And so early on I was good at that, but I thought the end was just about it was just bad. It was like to me it came across like, your depression is actually right about you. You are a piece of shit, and it doesn't matter how you try to fix it because whatever piece of shit things you've done in the past will always come back to get you. So what's the point? I'm like, that's
yeah,
kind of a shitty way to end the show. But yeah. Oh, this is just talking about the absurd, unbelievable things because it was like one of my friends I was talking to the other day is like, yeah, now I'm getting my 30s. I can't relate to these sitcoms about 20 something forever. It's like, that's why I love shows like Happy Endings. Like, yeah, maybe I can't relate to it, but that's because it's so insane. It would never happen in real life. It's like, it's never like, oh, this is just like the time I blew up my bootleg 80s limousine to get back at my friends for buying me a fake lottery ticket and making me think I'd
yeah,
won.
exactly.
Like, yeah, oh, yeah, it happens all the time. But yeah,
Yeah,
my friend Grant, who is the big expert on The Shield, another one of my, we've named like 3 of my top 5 favorite shows already. Mr. Show, The Simpsons, there we go, top 5. But he's like, what Lanny wrote, about like drama and stuff is that like a lot of shows are regarded as prestige dramas to the extent they're not dramas, to the extent it's all about cinematography and slow burn and look how cool and metaphorical everything is. And I feel like that's a lot of the way with comedy too, where it's like just being as funny as possible isn't what to get regarded. It's being like kind of funny, but also telling some story or having some serious bit or, being about Hollywood, like Hacks of the Studio and, uh,
yeah,
you know, and I like both those shows, especially Hacks. But it's the thing where it's like being funny and just making people laugh is hard. I don't think it gets enough respect.
yeah. No, I agree with that, especially like on like a on just like a like joke level. And I
Yeah.
feel like another thing is like a lot of like the kind of like there's a class of modern comedy that kind of like they like eat through punchlines, kind of like they can't just like stand and deliver and like tell a joke.
Mm,
They need to undercut it. There needs to be like a beat.
yeah.
And I just like just let the joke stand as a joke. Um, yeah,
Yeah. And just there's not many that just really have that. Pack in as much as possible. Part of the reason, Reggie Dinkins has been so refreshing. I miss the 30 Rock style stuff and the absolute absurdity of the some of the dialogue. That happy ending, 30 Rock happy endings, those kind of shows. Fun, folks, that's fun.
yeah. The Kolak shows all just have this like tightness, and
Hmm.
like every line is so good and so funny. And like I
Hmm.
say, you watch those shows, there's a joke that feels like it's the funniest joke you've ever heard in your life, and you'll never forget it ever. And then like 3 jokes later, you're like, what was that joke from 5 minutes ago?
Yeah, because there's another one, more that's just
Yeah,
as good. Yeah, and so it's just that's hard to do, and I really I'm trying to think
yeah,
of other good examples. The only other thing I can think of though is like what you said about the Star Wars connected stuff. And like, it's another reason Andor's one of the greatest. It's absurd how good Andor is, especially for a Star Wars show. Just by the way, I think
Yeah,
you
I've
told me.
still.
Yeah, it's really like preposterous. Like it might be my pick for like show of the decade right now. But it's just
Yeah,
there's also none of that coincidental crap. You know, it's like incidentally Star Wars. Like you
yeah.
barely.
That's what everyone says.
Yeah, it's just like sci-fi about how a fascist empire operates and how people live through it or what inspires them to revolt or what have you. You know, and but it's just really well done. Great performances, great characters. I'm probably going to stump for it anytime a television conversation comes up. I just, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it is getting the plaudits. Nobody dislikes it. It
Yeah,
seems
and
like.
it's wildly just like unexpected too, you know. Especially where it came, oh, we're gonna write a prequel to a prequel about a
Yeah,
character that wasn't that, and it turns out to be like the sort of thing nothing but nobody could have expected. It's kind of absurd, really. You know,
yeah,
it's like oh, if they gave, it's not like if they gave David Chase or David Simon or Vince Gilligan, another show and it ended up being the best show, like nobody would be surprised. Like, not
yeah,
that Tony Gilroy is a bad writer, just that like the fucking property it's about.
yeah. Tony Gilroy really does not have any too many misses.
Yeah, I mean he's good. Finally saw Michael Clayton a few years ago. That's terrific.
Uh, yes, great.
Yeah.
I did not realize Tony Gilroy's first movie was The Cutting Edge, the figure skating.
Oh yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah. And
Um,
then Dolores Claiborne, Devil's Advocate, and then Proof of Life.
oh wow,
Yeah.
I never saw Devil's Advocate, and oh shit, my browser's fucking up because I think your
I
video. I
mean, there
guess
are those movies though
there
that
you go.
like. Oh, he didn't write that. Okay. I was
What's
going to say
that?
he put. I was going to say he produced. Oh, because his brother directed Nightcrawler, which I liked quite a
Uh,
bit. Nightcrawler, good movie. Yeah, but
I've heard it's good. I haven't seen it though.
uh, given we are at the point I I am closing in on the point where I do need to pick up my
Okay.
son at daycare, and I think
Yeah.
the section of the two guys talking about Tony Gilroy movie they like is like the
Is this where we're
that like
losing an
that's
audience? I don't know.
half the I think half the podcasts on the internet are two guys talking about how much they like Michael Clayton, you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
the 101st Michael Clayton podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. No. Well, we covered a lot anyway, so that was excellent. Maybe even a little more poker talk than I expected, but it's not like news of the day or straight. It's just
Yeah.
reminiscing about the old days and how they're different from the new days. And
Honestly, for poker social media and stuff, remember when always just good, very good numbers.
what's that? Oh.
Remember when always just very
Oh
good
yeah.
numbers
Well, nothing wrong with
on
that.
poker social media. Yeah.
I don't, maybe, Tony Soprano can say what he wants about it being the lowest form of
Yes.
conversation, but frankly,
Yes, exactly.
that's what I have to talk about with people, well, y'all became bigger at successes and I went and did a lot of other not poker things that I did not
Yes.
become a big success at. I like to say I'm a Renaissance man in the sense that I know a little about a lot of things, but I'm not good enough at any of them to be like my
Yes.
thing. Well, okay, buddy. Let's wrap up then, so you can get your son and presumably, and win the Good Dad of the Day award. Which I guess the bar is low if it's not for getting your son at daycare, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
Anything you want to talk about, plug before we go?
I mean, I would be surprised. I would assume most of the people listening to this are aware of Punt of the Day, but if you are not, or are not interested in poker content, but if you are not, please subscribe. www.puntoftheday.com. It's a Substack. I write about a poker hand every day, and then I write about some non-poker stuff as well, or like non-strategy stuff, but still mostly poker related stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're closing. We have already completed 1 year. We're closing in on 300 posts, which is a lot. But yeah,
I've like a more. I feel like I'm a more experienced writer, and yet I'm like I don't think I'd write a post every day. It's pretty impressive.
Now I started it off. I don't know. The name came to me, and then I backfilled the plan of it, which was not a good idea. It's a lot easier to change a name, But
yeah, I feel like. Well, I mean, I don't totally say. I mean, I had the idea for the pod because it's like, what can I do that combines all my skills and nobody else's. My skills of having been on mic and on stage before and talking to people and knowing people more successful than me and more well known. But then I love the name card speed. It's both a
Yeah, it
poker
is a good
term.
name.
It's a poker term, and it describes what we're doing here. Because we're a couple
Yes.
cards, a couple gadflies, a couple
Yeah, no, I think
wits.
it is a good name.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
You hear that? We're gonna submit for the podcast name of the year awards at the potties,
Yes.
which I'm sure is a
Yes,
real thing.
exactly.
Okay.
The Golden Globe for podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the golden earbuds or something. Well, all right, bud. Thanks a lot, man. This ended up being great, and I really appreciate you taking the time to just chat. And
Yeah,
I'm
no
sure I
problem.
will
And
probably
thank you for all the work you've done. And I'll try to hook you up with some people for future episodes.
awesome. Yeah, thanks. Cause yeah, I'd love to. I was like, I ran into. It's funny because I don't know if I told you. Actually ran into Luke a couple summers ago at the WSOP
Yeah,
because we were playing the same. I didn't know he'd be there. You told me you weren't going, so I kind of assumed he wasn't too. And I ran into him and like Mike Watson and a couple other people. And of course, the one thing people kept saying is like, "Oh wow, you look really different." It's like, yeah, it's true. And you probably haven't seen me in like 15 years. And I probably still had long
yeah,
hair. And I definitely didn't have a white beard. So, yeah, that
yes.
probably did. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And this was fun. I may bug you to do this again soon because I feel like we have a lot in common we could talk about and fill time with. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Thanks a lot. And watchers, listener, our viewers or our listeners, if you're on audio or blind, thank you. And, as you can see, if you're on the video below, you can see the website, my website, CaptainNate.com, patreon.com/CaptainNate. Sign up. I was going to say, here's our time for our Patreon subscriber Q&A, but we don't have any patrons yet, so nobody submitted any viewer questions. So maybe another time.
Pre-taped call-in show.
Yeah. No, last episode was Sam Greenwood. If you wanted to write him, you should have done it 2 weeks ago when we had.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks for coming, and take care, everybody.
All
And
right.
I need a tagline or something and a theme song. I wrote theme songs for my other pods. I haven't done one for this yet. And now I'm rambling. So thank you, everybody, and good night. Whenever you're listening, or day, or whenever the fuck you're listening to this.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shit. There I am. I can't tell where I am.
Okay.